Yo, we're back. What is going on? I was just sitting here thinking what is going on. I want to get caught up on Corey Richins. I was going to do a Corey Richins marathon tonight, but I don't know if I can stay up that late. I know tomorrow's day 5. Ooh, what should we do? Should we do like a marathon on Saturday and get all caught up, or should I just skip straight day 5? I don't think I can do that. I need to know what's going on. I need to watch the prior days. Are you guys watching? Like, what's the deal? I know Alicia is. What up? What up? What up? We're back with Nancy. Um, I've had enough of that trial today. Yeah, I know, but I didn't know if I should just do like a marathon on Saturday and get all caught up to day 5. I don't want to skip any of it. I saw Robert, Debbie, Abuelitas, Alicia, Anton, Robert. Hello, hello, hello. Um, hmm. I'm gonna have to think, but I definitely want to get caught up and watch. Hmm. Anyways, updates on Nancy. Nothing really other than I guess there is kind of an update. Not really, but some weird stuff has happened. So apparently someone got arrested tonight in front of Nancy's house. And allegedly the guy who got arrested had pictures of Nancy on his phone. So I just saw that. This just happened like a little while ago. So let's look into it together. Let me see. Oh, and there's footage. Yeah, Abuelita was right earlier when she said that there was footage of cars driving by in Nancy's neighborhood. Yeah, please hit the likes. Please, please, please. The regular took the stand today and been on all day. He was impaired. Oh, the guy driving in front of Nancy's, you mean? JLR posted something about it. Why do he have pictures of Nancy on his phone though? I guess because she is missing, but I thought that was a little weird. Um, I honestly lost hope on Nancy. I don't think she's alive anymore. Okay, let's see what JLR posted something about he had like a whole video, because he's been out there. Um he said he's been going at night too. I'm like, wow. He's at Nancy's like 24/7. Let me fix the screen. Okay, he said, wait, let's watch this. What the heck? What? I don't understand. I don't understand. I thought someone got arrested. He says deputies arrested a man in front of Nancy's house. Deputy drove his car away. Man was acting suspicious with a pic of Nancy on him, and he smelled like marijuana. I didn't see this. That car has been circling for a few days now. Wait, hey Tippy. Wait, this guy? This same guy? Huh. Okay, I saw this earlier too. I don't know who this guy is, but it says, "Why are we not talking about him? Disgruntled employee who was fired. Savannah took his spot." We have theorized, like, what if it was someone that was angry at Savannah, or, like, had something against her, or, like, didn't like her, or was even just, like, jealous of her. We have talked about that. "Hey, Lieutenant Kenny Melly, hello. Nancy's dead. It's a liability to keep someone alive that long." I know. I know. I agree. Absolutely. I don't think Nancy's with us anymore, unfortunately. So this is ring footage. Um, oh, Abuelita sent me a video too. I wonder if it's the same one, Abuelita. Let me pull it up. Abuelita did send me this earlier, so thank you. Um, I think you said Jay had the video. Is it her? Yeah. Um, it might be the same one we're playing here, but I'll play both just in case. It says ring footage shows several vehicles near Nancy's Tucson home, including one about 8 minutes after her pacemaker synced at 2:36. The homeowners say police never canvassed for the video. Huh. Let's see. You might have to zoom in because I'm doing a vertical. Hmm. It's footage from about 2.5 miles from Nancy's house. I mean, I guess if the license plate readers can read them, right? It's the back long way. Oh, unfortunately, kidnap victims in Mexico are kept for months, but these victims get returned because of liabilities. So I'm sure they know who it is, right? Was that the white car going right to left? Is that the car who took Nancy? So I'm assuming the neighbors just released this, or did the neighbors give it to law enforcement? It's been almost a month. It's the 26th, day 26 today. Nancy Guthrie's been missing. Let me grab my drink. Hey, pizza. Well, the video helps, right? If they're able to determine something from it, like who was driving. I think that was all I don't think even think Pima's posted anything today either on let me check. If not, we're gonna, do our usual. Oh, I have a video that I want to show you guys real quick. It's a 1 minute video.
Nancy Guthrie. Yesterday, investigators returned to the home, but today, visitors who do not appear to be law enforcement have been seen entering and exiting the home. News for Tucson's Jacob Owens remains outside as cameras are now up. Jacob, what can you tell us?
So it's been, what, a day or two that there's been $1 million ransom, so, or reward. Nobody's called in yet. I think they said they had like 1,500 new calls or something, but neighbors gave it to somebody, and they said they said the sheriff never searched their area. I wonder if they just didn't know they had it. Like, why wouldn't they just turn it in, right? Neighbors tried to give it to law enforcement. Oh. So the FBI was pretty much, I think the FBI has taken over. I think they have. It seems like it. I mean, there was people dressed in suits at her house, and everything's pretty quiet, and what's his name? Nanos hasn't given like a press conference, probably because he can't. She's been missing before, I believe. Was there confirmation that the guy on the Ring camera original was from? That's the thing, is we don't know about the camera. They haven't told us about the rooftop camera. We don't know. We don't have the footage from Nancy arriving. They put new cameras. Savannah's going back to New York this weekend. No way. No way. That was one of the things on my list to talk about. Savannah's, no way. She's going back to the Today Show to be on TV, and her mom is still missing. Absolutely not. That gives me weird vibes. It gives me like, what the hell? They probably got neighbors' footage without homeowners knowing it. How old is the vehicle? Do they know the No. This, I think, literally was just like today, right? And then right now that guy got arrested. If they have a description of the car, then they can use a license plate reader. There are plenty of them used by law enforcement. I'm assuming. I mean, I guess Savannah has to like continue with her life, but didn't say Today's Show. I said New York. Oh, so maybe she's just going back home. I heard she possibly was going back though.
Yeah, Monica, I can tell you that now there's at least 3 security cameras installed here at Nancy Guthrie's home. The man who installed those cameras just left like 2 minutes ago here in an unmarked truck. We do not know who he was with, what company or anything like that, but let's show you some of that activity from earlier this evening. So this started around 3:15. A man began placing security cameras high onto the exterior of Guthrie's home. He placed 2 along the front of the house and 1 off to the side, sort of behind the garage area. It's worth remembering that it was Guthrie's doorbell camera that caught video of an unidentified suspect related to her disappearance. The new cameras are not the only thing that has gone on here today, though. Monica.
I mean, that's great that they're putting cameras on, but it's like, okay, it's a little too late. And is someone moving in? They just want them. Now they want cameras everywhere. Why else would she go to New York unless she plans to be back on the show? She does have children. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Fly them out to AZ. She might be considering going back, and it seems a little too soon, but I guess to each their own. How convenient the neighborhood cameras weren't working or destroyed. Do they not have cameras in the streetlights? I don't know how updated shit is around there. I guess they don't. I guess they don't have, right? I don't, you would think they would have, I would think they would have updated stuff, especially if it's like a really nice neighborhood. But
a Comcast vehicle was here earlier, as well as a Wagoneer SUV. We are still trying to get information on who exactly was in that SUV, but the road behind me, you saw traffic at the beginning of the shot here. It's open both ways. That's a change. This weekend, it became a one-way road, and it's open both ways with parking restrictions. You cannot park along the side of the road like many members of the media have been doing for almost a month now. For parking, you have to go many streets away. We'll bring you the latest ahead at 6. Reporting live in the foothills, Jacob Owens.
Interesting. Let's watch this about the guy getting pulled over. Brian Enton did a short on it just not that long ago. It's about a minute and 50 seconds.
So a little update to my previous video about the weird guy who was driving by like literally 50 times with the like picture of Nancy Guthrie on his phone when he looked in the window. He was arrested. It turns out he was arrested for DUI. We kind of watched the whole thing happen right here outside the house. Like they got him out of the car and then they did field sobriety tests and he ended up getting arrested. So they took him away. So it's kind of weird to see that all happen right outside Nancy's house. So that's pretty much the latest from outside here. Obviously, you guys, if you check out my latest episode on YouTube, I talk about this new surveillance video that's come out today, which is interesting from a camera 2.5 miles away. But the timing seems to really match up with when someone may have left Nancy's house when her pacemaker disconnected from her phone. So check that out. And that's really it. And you guys know now there's like no cars allowed on Nancy's street parking wise. So we have to walk in. So I'm about to walk probably about maybe a mile in that direction in pitch black darkness, which is actually kind of freaking me out. And everyone's like, oh, there's coyotes, there's bobcats. So anyway, hopefully I'll be okay. Just joking. It'll be fine. But
I love Brian.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
I think he's so sweet. In a richer neighborhood. Yeah, I was reading somewhere online that the houses are like over $1 million. Arizona's so different. You would have thought there was a camera somewhere like in out of the area. Yeah. Anywhere. Go through everything. If there's a rich area, everyone. That's also my thing. I'm like, neighbors have to have security cameras. I mean, I don't live in a rich neighborhood and I have them. I thought he would be on his way home by now. She's Muslim. Just leave that camera on. Which one? Which camera? Let's watch Brian Enton's video that he just mentioned.
That captures a car. Now, this is about 2 miles or so from Nancy's house. But the time frame of when this car went by this Ring camera could be significant because it seems to match up with when we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone. So I'm going to get into the surveillance video, what it means. It's also interesting that the sheriff's office apparently did not have the video up until today. So I'll go through the latest on that. Also, there was a lot of action again at Nancy's house. Remember yesterday we saw law enforcement. I saw a homicide detective, and then also prosecutors were there. Well, today there were people putting up new surveillance cameras, and there are indications that law enforcement is getting ready to turn the house back over to Nancy's family. So I have all the video of everything that happened at the house today.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to get into all the latest. Again, it's day 26 in this episode of Brian Enton Investigates. Hey guys, so again, I'm outside Nancy Guthrie's house. It's quieter out here. Not as much media now that these new parking rules.
So like turning the house back to the family means someone's going to move in? That feels really uncomfortable to me, but maybe people are different. I don't know. I guess everybody's different. The camera Brian was holding was so the boogie doesn't get him. I know.
Have gone into effect, but there's still some of us out here that have managed to get over here. And it's interesting, some of the neighbors even just came up to me a little while ago and they're like, oh, we're so happy you're still here if you need a ride or you want to like use a golf cart or something, which is super nice. But I want to get to a couple of the big developments. First of all, this new surveillance video. This video was obtained by Fox Digital and by my friend Mike Ruiz, who is an excellent reporter. It's surveillance video from a Ring camera from about 2.5 miles away from here, from Nancy's house. But if you look at the map, you can see how it would be a way to avoid main roads and kind of leave the area. I mean, there's a couple of ways, but this would be one way. And the surveillance video caught a lot of cars the morning of February 1st. But this specific video of this car going by is especially interesting because it's from 2:36 a.m. on February 1st. And remember, it was at 2:28 a.m. that Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app showed that it was disconnected from her phone. So that would be 2:28 to 2:36. And it is about a 7-minute give or take drive from Nancy's house here where I'm sitting to where this video comes from. So the timing.
Oh, so it could pretty much be, they have golf carts, but not security cameras. I smell BS. I guess they can do whatever they want with it. I hope they can figure out who those vehicles belong
is
to.
really, really interesting.
Wow.
We don't know. This could be totally not connected. There's no way to know for sure. But the timing is interesting and the route is interesting. And it's kind of shocking that the people who own this house that have the Ring camera say that the sheriff's office and FBI never came by to get this video. So it wasn't until Fox Digital obtained the video and then sent it to the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office that I'm told that they now have the video. We haven't heard about whether it's significant, whether they think it's important to the investigation. I mean, like I said, it could totally not be. I mean, it could be totally irrelevant, but the timing is interesting here because if you look at the map again, it's about a 7-minute drive, give or take. And we know that Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone at 2:28 a.m. And then
I find it a little odd because Yari, like, if someone's missing from my neighborhood and they're like, check your cameras, whether they say it or not, like, I would probably just think like to check my cameras. So I'm a little surprised that like the neighbors hadn't turned it over. But I mean, I don't know if they attempted to give it to law enforcement, but you know, it is Pima County that dropped the ball too on asking neighbors. They were just asking like this week or last week, which they should have been doing on like day one, but I don't know.
This specific video is from 2:36
I have no idea.
a.m. So
I have no idea. I don't have Ring or Nest. Mine is totally different. I don't even know the name to be honest. I like them though. Mine has like an alarm on it. Like it has everything. Yeah, I don't give an F if LA came to me or not. I turn over everything, right? Thing is owned by Amazon and they can have access to your camera. Nest is owned by Google. Personally, I'd use neither and get actual security cameras. Interesting.
The timing would match up. There's also other videos on that Ring camera that show other cars going by before and after, which are also interesting. But again, I'm most interested in this 2:36 a.m. video. So we'll see if the police will comment on it. We'll see if it becomes part of the investigation. But it is something I think for us to keep an eye on. Remember when initially the sheriff's office was asking anyone within a 2-mile radius to send forward video that they had that may have been interesting to them or may have looked unusual. This is about 2.5 miles away from Nancy's house. So it would have fallen outside that radius. But still, it is kind of interesting that, you know, no sheriff's deputies went that route and saw that camera because it's pretty easy to notice. One of my producers has been over there and noticed the camera. Also new today, there's been some action outside of Nancy's house and inside. Remember yesterday we saw law enforcement there and I've confirmed that it was a Pima County homicide detective and there were prosecutors there and they were walking around the outside of the house and then inside of the house. And it seems that they are now getting ready to turn the house back over to the Guthrie family, that it is no longer going to be considered a crime scene. I don't know if technically it has really been a crime scene for the last couple of weeks because it's just been a deputy outside, although they have been keeping an eye on it, but there hasn't like been any crime scene tape. But from what we hear, they are getting ready to turn the house.
Would it be kind of weird that the family is just like, okay, let's move on. Like someone will move in. Like I get it. They have to like move on with their lives and stuff. And the house probably needs tending to, but I mean, We're on day 26. Like, can everyone like chill out?
House back over to the
I mean-
Guthrie family. And it seems that that is why yesterday it was almost like a last look for law enforcement that wanted to go by the house. Today, there have been people like contractors putting cameras up, installing cameras, which is interesting, new surveillance cameras around the house. There was also a shot we got of one man that came in a Jeep that clearly didn't want to be seen. I couldn't really figure out who he was, but he got in the Jeep and left. So it seems they're kind of securing the house in preparation for when it's turned back over to the family and there's not a sheriff's deputy sitting outside anymore, which is the way it's been for the last couple of weeks. Remember, initially it was secured, then it was not secured when we were able to walk up to the front of the house those first couple of days. Then after that, they secured it again with the sheriff's deputy outside. And it's our understanding that they are now getting ready to open it back up and return it to the family, which would make sense, I guess. After 26 days, there's probably not much more processing that they want to do there. There are also reports that Savannah Guthrie may be getting ready to return to New York. I haven't been able to confirm that myself, but that also, I guess, wouldn't be incredibly surprising since she has, young kids and she's been here now for almost a month. So the hope is that, some leads will get going here. I mean, it's only been a couple of days since she announced the $1 million reward. And now with this new surveillance video, maybe that is going to be connected. We don't really know yet. I wanted to talk to my friend and she's also a criminologist and an attorney, 𝗝cie 𝗶𝗵𝗆.
Okay, so she might be going back to New York. We don't know if she's going back to the Today Show, but would they even want her to go back with this much media behind her, and attention on the case? I guess eventually, if it does become a cold case, everyone would have to move on. But also weird that the only camera they have is from 7 minutes away. This does not make sense. This irks me. I totally am with you. It doesn't seem like it's right. One of those men standing outside the porch looked like Savannah's brother. A lot of people were thinking it was him. His name is Cameron, I think. Oh, good. They're securing a house after the crime was committed. Every time I see a clean blue pool or river or lakes, I get thirsty. Yeah, I know what you mean about securing. I don't know. I have a feeling that those vehicles might not even be anything really.
About all these latest developments. I'm joined now by 𝗝cie 𝗶𝗵𝗆, a criminologist and also host of the podcast Criminal Appeal. It's always nice to see you, 𝗝cie. I haven't seen you in a while. I was talking to you all the time, and then got kind of.
You got a little busy, Brian. You got a little busy.
I got busy, but I wanted to ask you first about this new report of their surveillance video that's come out from a Ring camera around the corner of Nancy's house. Cars going by around the time that Nancy's pacemaker was disconnected, around early morning hours of February 1st. Hard to know for sure if it's connected, but what struck me is that that the people who own the house say that the sheriff's office or no law enforcement has come to them and gotten the video. Does that surprise you 25 days in?
I think that from the outset, there was just this fear that if they put out an all call, in other words, everyone who might have any video, send it in, that they would be so flooded with Ring video camera footage, tens of thousands of hours, that they wouldn't have the manpower to go through it. So I think there was a misstep at the beginning by just not saying between this time and this time, check your Ring cameras. And if you see anything, send it in. There's always.
How about, between like this day and this day and this time and this time. I like the property. It's a nice neighborhood. Nancy's house is nice. It seems like they're doing everything ass backwards. Yeah, I'm so confused by this case.
Always been like, okay, we're going to go around and we're going to talk to the neighbors. And then, okay, we're going to go a little bit further out in the circumference of the house asking for footage. And then it's like, oh, now that we have pictures of the guy on the porch, let's everyone go back and look from January 1st onwards. But what has been missing is a lot of specificity, if you will. Once they had that 42-minute time frame of the doorbell not working and then going offline. Everybody knows about those 42 minutes.
Because you guys think about it, the only real timeline that they have is not even from the footage. Like that timeline of the pacemaker and stuff is because of the pacemaker. So where's the timestamps to that footage from the guy at the door? And then where's the other footage and why aren't they revealing it? They have to have timestamps, right? I guess it makes sense to go off of the pacemaker, but like we don't really know like what else was going on. I would review all my yeah. I mean, sometimes I'll even just check the day before. Like if I have time or if I notice something's off, like I'll go back the day before and like review my footage. I mean, not like hour per hour, but I'll like look through it. You can ask for video between certain hours, common sense. They'd have timestamps in the metadata of the video. Yeah, they're not giving us that. I've never seen anything like this. It's just so weird. I feel like we're not safe at all. No, we're not. Maybe other people did, but the sheriffs wouldn't take it like the other camera. I feel like, yeah, the sheriff's department maybe fumbled this.
And it's in the middle of the night where it appears that an invader was in Nancy's home. The key would have been to look for 3 to 5 hours before that and 3 to 5 hours after that on all cameras in the area. So instead of building the circumference of families that you're asking to check their Ring cameras, you narrow it down to a time frame. And that way, whoever is reviewing these tips and these pieces of video footage that are given to the sheriff's office actually can cull through them and get the ones that would be most important. But the end of the sentence is, it is alarming to think that neighbors in the area did not have a knock on their door by a representative of the Pima County Sheriff's Office asking them to check their Ring camera footage and reviewing it with them. I think this might be a manpower issue, but in my mind, there's really no excuse.
So I've been away from home for a while for work, and one of the things I miss so much are my Factor meals. They make it so much easier to eat there.
Got it, Brian.
Big problem. Limited family plans. If you see a website,
that many houses in the neighborhood. I mean, the houses are spread out there.
I completely agree, and we know that video solves this faster than DNA. I mean, everything with this case completely changed once we were able to get that back end footage just miraculously stored, in a deep archive that Google helped get from that Nest camera that shouldn't have even been recorded because she didn't have a subscription. We know video solves this time and time and time again. When we saw it with the Ohio dentist case, we've seen it with the shooting of the CEO of United Healthcare. I mean, all the time, it's video that almost always solves this. So the idea that people around the corner never got a knock on their door or just a written notice, please check your security footage and call us if you have anything at all, that's disturbing. It just seems like all of this evidence is coming in tardy to the party, and we don't know how many video cameras got overwritten in the first week, because so many of them, if you don't actually pull that footage within a certain time frame, it's lost forever.
Right. Yeah. There are reports now, and I haven't been able to confirm this myself, that Savannah Guthrie may be planning to go back to New York City soon. She's been here in a rental house close by, which, she's got 2 little kids. I mean, to me, that's not really surprising. I mean, she can't just be away from her family forever. What do you make of that? And do you think, obviously she's in touch with investigators, do you think that's a sign that they're telling her like nothing imminent is about to happen?
Well, Savannah's a very intelligent human being, and she knows that there's only so much she can do. And I would argue that being on site and having no news is worse than being at home, because just being near her mother's house is going to give her that constant sense of urgency. I cannot even fathom the level of stress and the hell that this family is going through. But at a certain point, getting back to your routine and being near family and friends, and just in a situation where everything is familiar instead of surreal, is part of the healing process. I think that we got a really good taste of Savannah's healing process with her last video a few days ago, where for the very first time we heard her articulate, which words kind of seal the truth. She articulated that she was accepting that her mother might be lost, may no longer be with us. In other words, might be dead. And even though most of us have been thinking this for several weeks, it was important that we heard Savannah say that. And I think that, it has been such a roller coaster ride, up and down, different pieces of evidence coming in, arrests of people that didn't pan out. Her emotions have got to be completely frayed. So I think that she is now in the space where she has done and knows she has done as much as she can humanly do. She's communicated, she's asked for tips, she's offered a reward for the recovery even of her mother's body, not even for capture of the kidnapper. And at a certain point, you just get back to your routine. I think it's really wise and mentally healthy for her to return to New York, her home, be with her kids, and then just start contemplating what her next steps will be.
You spoke about her videos, and I've said this before on my podcast, and I've talked to some other people about it. She seems to be very careful in the way that she talks to this alleged kidnapper when she's addressing that person. I've noticed almost like with a sympathetic tone, which has made me wonder if she thinks, or there's the possibility that this is like someone obsessed with her, or like a stalker who she's trying to kind of like almost communicate with directly. Have you thought about that?
I don't think it's someone that's obsessed with her or a stalker. I do think it could possibly someone that's angry at her. You're funny, pizza. Yeah, I like Brian a lot.
That at all?
Well, initially, like her very first video started by talking to the public, and then she shifted and started talking to whoever might have her mother.
Yeah.
So every one of her videos has been a little bit different. And you can be very certain the first one was incredibly scripted by the FBI. I mean, it was like kidnapping 101. I think all of us were kind of like, was that just a line from Silence of the Lambs?
Right.
It was so scripted that I found it to be highly ineffective, just overly contrived. And I don't think that if there is a kidnapper, which by the way, I have a big question mark there, Brian, I don't at this juncture think there is a kidnapper out there per se. I think there is a person who abducted Nancy, but I don't believe at this juncture that if she was removed from the house intentionally instead of as a crime amelioration or cleanup effort, if that makes sense. I think that if...
Okay, that's an interesting take. She doesn't think it was a kidnapper. Yeah, I don't think it was either.
Somebody had taken Nancy as a grudge against Nancy. This is me addressing your question finally.
Oh, that's what I said. Someone who has something against
they
her.
really were obsessed with Nancy, or sorry, if they were obsessed with Savannah and took Nancy to hurt Savannah, we would know that. Grudge collectors want you to know why they're hurting you. Otherwise, it's pointless. They don't want to just serve revenge up cold. They want you to know, hey, this is why we did it. And you did something wrong, and this is payback. Alternatively, we had the whole theory, which I cottoned to in the first week too, that it was a kidnapping for profit. But it was very quickly revealed that all of these communications from so-called kidnappers were hoaxes, because nobody could provide proof of life, proof of death, proof that they had Nancy at all in any state. So I think we have been through this roller coaster, and Savannah has tried different techniques with her videos with the coaching of the FBI. But I think the ones we're seeing now are Savannah. And I think that she is now open to the theory that we've been bandying about for a week or two now, that perhaps this was never a kidnapping for profit or a kidnapping for grudge to hurt Savannah. It's not revenge motivated or anything, because we have no proof of life, and we have no communications from anyone that would really support the idea that they took Nancy on purpose with a mission. I think what we are now looking at is the idea that this was a burglary, and probably by an amateur, based on the activities of the guy on the porch, and that perhaps something really bad happened in that house, unanticipated for both Nancy and the invader in the 42 minutes, because professional kidnappers are like ninjas. They get in, they get out, and then the family gets a notice. They don't call.
This lady is so on point too, because we have said that here before. We're like, okay, what happened in those 41 minutes? Where is Nancy? I have no idea.
TMZ, and they don't communicate with news stations. They go directly to the family. So the fact that we have not heard, and I truly believe that we have not heard from the person who is responsible for Nancy's disappearance. Let's say they got into a scuffle. Let's say Nancy had a heart attack. Let's say Nancy pulled the mask off of the intruder and recognized him as maybe a former employee or something like that. Scratched him, got DNA under her fingernails. God forbid she had a medical emergency and the invader was terrified and gave her mouth to mouth and is like, my DNA is on Nancy. How do you deal with this? This is just a theory. It's speculation. The answer is you've got to get Nancy out of there because Nancy has the DNA. And this would explain her removal from the house. Alive, unalive, we will never know. But it really, there's so much we don't know about the state of that house on the inside that would really help.
She really made a good point. Like, oh my gosh, maybe Nancy did try to fight back and she couldn't because she's older, and very plausible. But did they end up stealing anything? No. I guess that would make sense, right? Why they would want Nancy, right? If Nancy had their DNA. Just theories.
Me with this theory, but not knowing it, I can at least conjecture. And I don't want to hear from people, oh, it's all speculation. Everything is speculation at this point. We've never seen anything like this. But I think more and more people are going with the idea that perhaps this was a burglary gone wrong. Nancy was removed from the house just to cover up evidence, and that only that person knows where she is. And that person's not the least bit interested in $1 million if they've actually gotten away with the crime.
But if it was a burglary gone wrong, you know, now that we've confirmed that that one photo is from a previous day, you remember there was the one with the backpack, and then there's the other photo of the suspect outside the front door. Would they have been casing the house days earlier just for like a regular burglary? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So here's my thing about it's from the day before. We don't have timestamps. And even the sheriff has been like, don't follow this theory. There's just purely speculation. The day before could have been 11:55 the night before.
When I don't think it's the day before. And so we have sources telling us it's a previous day. I don't know what day it is. I think, and this is just now I'm speculating, but I think it's going to be January 11th because that we know that the detectives were going around specifically asking the neighbors for video from the night of January 11th. And that date kept coming up. Like, do you have video from January 11th? So that's kind of why I've keyed on that, which if that's the case, that's when that photo's from, that would have been weeks before Nancy went missing. You know, when she was taken.
Make no mistake, burglars always case the joint.
Do they?
Okay. That's true. I do think that whoever it was, whatever reason they were there for, I think cased the joint before. Pizza says, I doubt a burglar would try to save Nancy, though. And if she died in the house, the burglar would have just left her. I doubt it was burglary. I didn't think she would go quietly. Hey, Jakey. Yeah. I don't think she would go quietly. I keep thinking like maybe Nancy knew the person. I don't know.
That would make total sense. I guess I'm thrown off because it looks like the same guy and he's wearing the exact same clothing. So for all I know, he approached the door when they say it happened the day before or at a date before. I'm also considering that he walked up on that porch at 11 p.m. the night before she went missing, checked things out.
Yeah.
Went back and got his backpack full of burglary tools or whatever, a clean suit, whatever's in that backpack, and then approached the house again because he seems to be wearing the exact same clothing. I don't know whether it was 2 or 3 weeks before, but let's be clear, burglars case the joint. It is very, 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 very rare, unless they're under the influence of drugs, that they just hop up on a porch and go, I don't know whether somebody's inside or not inside. I'm going to just break in and find out. I do believe whoever went in there did not realize the house was occupied.
And as a criminologist, you always are so interesting because you know about statistics and stuff. I mean, it just
hold on. Let me go back out and come back in because I show myself lagging on my end. Hold on. Okay, hopefully that's better. I thought it would fix it. I personally think they knew who they were kidnapping. Okay, so this guest on Brian's show is saying that that maybe the burglar or whoever, the perp, didn't know someone was there. I don't know if I believe that. I think they knew who they were there to see or kidnap or whose house. He might have hit her in the nose to keep her quiet, and that's why there's blood on the porch. How do they know she was sleeping? Like, what if Nancy saw on her, what if her cameras did go off? She saw and then like started walking downstairs or something. And then, yeah, maybe they heard her, or maybe she fell. My screen is blurry. Is it better now or no? Some Spanish channels have her running an art gallery. She has 30-year. Have who running an art gallery? My theory, a worker happened to be sent there. He saw who she was, did a little research, then planned a poorly executed kidnapping. That's what I thought too. I thought maybe a worker. She died and they panicked. I think so too. I thought maybe it was something like that. It was late. Maybe they were assuming she was asleep.
Just seems is impossible that this is random. I don't know. Like, could this really just be some burglar who decided I'm going to pick this house
Yes.
and take some old lady?
Oh,
Yes. He didn't consider
Brian.
that he didn't know who Nancy Guthrie was, right? But did know, maybe from casing the joint or watching Nancy get in and out of her car or whatever, that a little old lady lives there alone. And little old ladies are really great burglary targets because they tend to have a lot of jewelry and easily removable things, sterling silver, okay? They're not big on electronics and stuff that you can't steal and get rid of. Everybody wants gold. Everybody wants precious metals, gems, jewelry, silver. And little old ladies, if he cased this joint and knew that Nancy was there, it doesn't mean he knew that Nancy is the mother of Savannah Guthrie.
But they didn't take anything. So if they're there to really do a burglary, okay, maybe something happened with Nancy. All right, throw Nancy in the car. Like, we got to get rid of her now. But they also had the opportunity to take jewelry, right? Or maybe have Nancy open her safe. I don't know.
Right. And I just,
Maybe.
once I saw the guy on the porch and saw just what an amateur he was. I mean, not at all smart. Goes up, sees the camera. A really accomplished burglar would have turned around and gone and picked a different house.
Yeah.
So that supports the idea that they did know who Nancy was and that it's targeted. And yet at the same time, he may have seen Nancy leave in an Uber earlier that day and not realize that she had come back to the house and thought the house was empty. There's just so much, but I looking at the guy on the porch, this does not seem targeted specifically to Nancy Guthrie to me once I saw what a clown he was. I just think that if this was really about Nancy, it would have been infinitely more professional. And the fact that we don't have her could just be beginner's luck. It could have been random and it could be beginner's luck.
So what do you think happens now? I mean, is this going to be, I keep wondering because I'm obvious.
I agree, DC. He spent way too much time on that camera and way too much time in the house. The man had woman eyes too. I agree with that, Pizza. I think that too. Very feminine. They would take stuff if it was a burglary. They took nothing yet. No, not even, well, obviously they wouldn't take tech stuff, right? Because it would be traceable. But yeah, I mean, they had opportunity to take jewelry and whatnot. But do we really know that? We don't. I don't know. And I want to know. They would have taken stuff. Yeah, I thought so too.
He's still here. And I don't want to leave because I feel like I'm invested. It almost reminds me when I covered Koberger or Gabby Petito. I want to see a resolution here. I don't want to just pick up and go. I want to see something. I'd love to see Nancy come home, obviously, or something. But part of me is like, is this going to go on for years? Like, what does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me this may go on for years. I think this might be a Natalie Holloway, if you will. And I remember her mother having to make that choice to come back from Aruba. Like, just If I come
Ooh.
back from Aruba, people will forget, but no one's ever forgotten Natalie Holloway, even though we still to this day don't know what happened to her. And I think that might be the same with Nancy Guthrie. It depends on whether or not she's still alive. And of course, we all hope she is, but hope springs eternal. I loved Savannah saying we are blowing on the embers, and she will for the rest of her life. But at this point, she just wants answers. And if Nancy is demised, if she is no longer with us, and somebody, I don't know, buried her in the desert, you may have her body discovered accidentally. This happens, you know, by hikers, dogs, whatever.
Yeah, this lady has like theories that are very well like realistic, you know? And I said that too. I said maybe she's buried somewhere. I feel like they buried her somewhere close to. I don't know why I've had that feeling. Who's this lady? I forgot who he said it was. It's too high profile. I think the blood looks like cough spatter, like she was in the mouth and then coughed on the way to the car. I feel like he staged the house with blood. The Tucson desert is vast. I'm believing in the 𝗠𝗲𝗹𝗆𝗶𝗽 theory from Sheriff Nanos when they kept saying that he didn't contact the family for 2 damn days. Yeah, I know.
This happens all the time, actually. And that will at least give the Guthrie family some peace. But it doesn't mean that the crime will be solved. I wouldn't be at all surprised unless we get a tip from a co-conspirator or somebody who knows, actually knows and has the evidence or has a confession, unless that tip comes in, which could happen with $1 million on the table. I think that this may be one for the textbooks. We've never seen anything like it before, and we may never solve it.
That's just so shocking, though, to think.
When she said the Natalie Holloway case, oh my gosh, my heart. I haven't covered that here on my channel, but I do follow it, or did at least. Sacrificial ritual. I believe that too, pizza. After everything with the Epstein files and all of that, I believe it. I mean, even prior to that, but you know, you don't know if you don't know. I feel like she was or wait, if you know, you know. I feel like both could count. I feel like if she was thrown over the shoulder, and that's why there's no footprints over the blood. Damn, abuelita, one person can throw her over the shoulder though? That person that we saw on the camera? There's no way. Wasn't there some weird stuff that came out with Holloway and Epstein?
About with the resources of the FBI, the president talking about it, you know, you really think it could go unsolved?
I do. I mean, at any given moment in the United States, 50,000 people are missing, adults and children, cases that are unsolved, people who have never been found.
Yep.
And that's not for lack of us paying attention, although we have paid an inordinate amount of attention to this case. And I really, really love that Savannah brought that up in her last video, and that her family donated $500,000 to the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But I mean, it's not that surprising. I mean, 50,000 people are missing that we don't know what happened to them. And just because Nancy Guthrie is Savannah's mother doesn't mean that she may not join their ranks. It just means that a lot of awful crime goes on: kidnapping, murder, human trafficking, even alive captors that we discover 18 years later, like 𝗲𝗎 Dugard. The mystery is what is going to torment us. But yeah, there's so many people who are never found. And I hate to say, I think Nancy might become one of them because of all the attention that's being paid, but we need to be prepared for that. If she was actually kidnapped for ransom or for revenge, we would have heard from the people who took her by now.
Yeah.
And just kind of back to where I started.
I really think so too. Okay, so like all of a sudden the ransom notes stop. No one wants the money. Like, so maybe the person who took Nancy unalived themselves too when they unalived Nancy. I don't know. The case is why different. Yeah. She was only 150. You're right, abuelita. If she was 150, so someone could pick her up. The case is close to Mexico. Yeah. I don't think so. There's no way. True,
with
right?
this new video, and the fact that the apparently the sheriff still hasn't gotten it, or didn't canvass the neighborhood. Do you think it's fair? I mean, we've been very critical of the sheriff since the beginning. I mean, it seems like there's been a lot of issues. Is that fair criticism, do you think?
So I want to give them a bit of a pass by simply saying I don't think they have ever seen anything like this before. All right. This is an unusual disappearance. And that's what it is at this point. We have the evidence is clear that she was removed from the house, but the motive for that is still a mystery. We started correctly with the idea that it was a kidnapping. They brought in the FBI, and it's still the Pima County Sheriff's case. The FBI are there in advisory capacity, and there's been a lot of dust up about that. Like, shouldn't the FBI just take it over? There's talk that Savannah and her family wanted to get some private investigators involved. At this point, I think that their mistake was handling it like a homicide case from the beginning. They went in, they took evidence, and then they said, okay, family, you can go back in there. And just because that's policy and procedure doesn't mean that you can't take an extra step to preserve that crime scene, cordon off the entire street. And no offense to the media, but I would have not let them anywhere near that house, right? But it became a circus, a field day. Everybody was like, well, if the sheriff's not going to investigate it, I'll investigate it. People tromping through the desert behind her house, drones and helicopters. It became a bit of a circus. And I have to, if I fault the Pima County Sheriff's Office for anything, it's for not putting the damper on that from the beginning. I don't know that we actually needed all these press conferences. I don't know that we, the general public, need any of these updates. And sometimes too many cooks spoil the broth, so to speak. And I think that there were too many people with their fingers in this investigation, and that in the process, important opportunities and important evidence may have been lost.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, Casey, I appreciate your time as always.
And we hope that Nancy comes home.
As always,
she gave some really good hey Anton, she gave some really good feedback, and it's true what she's saying. Like, Nancy may never be found. We probably might never know nothing about Nancy again, and this could go down in history as a cold case. What's interesting too is, how we talk about people moving on. Megyn Kelly has moved on. She hasn't covered Nancy in the last few days. This case was botched. I agree, Evie, it was. Sheriff put a lot of animosity towards FBI. It can be intrusive on your station, but it happens, and most of the time they don't make a big deal if something tells you, starting to feel that way. Yeah, it is. It is starting to feel that way. Yeah, guys, please tap that like button. Let's watch Ashley Banfield. So Brian, Ashley, Nancy did a little segment today, and then Vinny Politan. I haven't been watching Vinny ever since I stopped modding for him, but those are personal reasons. He does do good content, so we might watch Vinny's. Let's watch Ashley for a little bit. We might watch the whole thing, or maybe not.
Disrupted. Sirius, welcome. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for being here. Also, hit subscribe.
Ashley's really good. I have like a love-hate relationship with her.
Please, it's a real favor to me, and I sure appreciate it if you already have. Also appreciate our members. Thank you. That morning, right? The morning of February 1st, when Nancy Guthrie was abducted. And not only did they find, a dozen vehicles driving at night, they found one that was particularly interesting. Let me give you all the details, because I, for one, am astounded that it was Fox that told the sheriff about these videos.
We just talked about this. We're like, wait, the neighbors didn't take it to the police, and the police didn't ask the neighbors, but we know that they botched that.
Not the other way around. It wasn't the sheriff that found these videos because they canvassed, because it's outside of the 2-mile perimeter. So this couple named Elias and Danielle Strategiulias, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, Strategulias.
Alicia says, are you mad at me? No, but he's a little bit shady, I'm not gonna lie.
Strategulias, I'm sorry, Elias and Danielle, if I'm wrong. But they told Fox News that they've got these street-facing Ring cameras, right, that caught 12 different cars that were passing by their house on the morning of the abduction. Why does that matter? Well, specifically, it matters because this house is on back roads. And the back roads lead directly out of Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood. And more interestingly, these back roads avoid major intersections. So if you're really smart and you're trying to avoid detection and you don't want cameras or license plate readers to see you driving at that time of night, you might consider taking back roads.
Oh, Abuelita had said it was back roads. I wonder if someone was paid to deliberate botch this case. Debbie, that's a good question. I have thought this myself.
I've watched Brian Enton drive those roads during the day. It is really hard to find your way during the day. You either have to really know that neighborhood well, that giant neighborhood, right? Because we're outside the 2 mile zone. Or you may have had to use a little help from, say, a digital directional app like Waze or Google Maps, right? So I'm also fascinated to find out at some point if the FBI has been doing that, finding everybody using those maps in that neighborhood at that time.
Yeah.
Because if they were using back roads, it's even harder to get around. So this is interesting about the Stradijulius.
Unless it's someone that's familiar with the area and the back roads.
Their report to Fox News. They said that the police have not canvassed their neighborhood in the last 25 days. So Fox, to their credit, let the FBI and the sheriff know. They alerted them to this video. It is unclear if the video is significant. It is unclear if the vehicles that are on this video are significant to this crime, to this abduction. But what is really interesting is one of the vehicles in all of the 12 that we're showing you, one of the vehicles was caught on camera at 2:36 a.m. on Sunday, February 1st. That time is so important because 2:36 a.m. is roughly 8 minutes after the sheriff told us on the timeline that Nancy's pacemaker separated from her iPhone, right? And it's presumed that that's when she was taken far enough away for the Bluetooth to separate from the iPhone, taken out of the residence. So 8 minutes. Now what's even more significant is that this house is 2.5 miles away, and it's roughly a 7-minute drive. These cars matter. Like with that kind of a timeline, again, if you're following me, Nancy's pacemaker separates. 8 minutes later, this vehicle is seen on this camera, and it is only roughly a 7-minute drive. So however long it might have taken to get Nancy into a vehicle, get her secured, do whatever they had to do, figure out where they were, make that drive, I could see that being perhaps 8 minutes, right? Sounds like it's perfectly within reason to assume that could be that vehicle. Could also be someone coming home late at night, just coincidentally, it's at 2:36 a.m., but I'd love to know how many cars were out driving at that time of night. How many Teslas were out driving at that time of night whose cameras may have captured? I mean, there's Tesla cameras all around a Tesla. I know because I have one. And you can capture vehicle traffic at that time of night. 2:36 a.m. is not a busy time of night. Yeah, I get it. It's Tucson. There'll be people out driving, but not as many as, say, before 11 at night. Maybe they've got these things. We don't know. The FBI has kept such a tight lid on their investigation, unlike the sheriff, who's sort of given us a lot of different mixed messages and also taken back some of his messaging. Ms. Stradijulius said that number of cars passing, 12 vehicles passing, I think it's between midnight-ish and 6 a.m., right? On her doorbell cam, not unusual. Not unusual to see roughly a dozen cameras passing. What is unusual to Ms. Trudjulius and to a friend of hers is that no one from law enforcement had visited the neighborhood. But again, let's be really clear, a 2-mile radius is a lot of homes. Maybe not as many as most of us would assume, because these are big properties, 1 to 4 acres. So maybe not that many homes, but maybe at some point the sheriff and the FBI were planning to expand the radius and ask more people. But I mean, time's a ticking. You know, you don't have forever to capture ring cams. We learned that in the Idaho investigation, that some of these businesses, you know, that had been canvassed for their videos to find the white Elantra, it was already gone. Their video was already gone. So time is of the essence if you're going to grab video. That's why I don't know why they...
Yeah, it does give very Brian Koberger vibes, or Idaho 4. FBI was there after Mark the Shark went and spoke to the daughter. She said family wants to help. Yes, it is, Anton.
Decided on a 2-mile radius, maybe from the get-go, just capture the data and go through it in order. Start in the center of the concentric circle and move out. And maybe eventually you won't have to get to the houses that are outside the 2-mile radius. But now you might be SOL. I mean, luckily Fox was able to get this, but you might be SOL. You know what? Out of luck. I'm not supposed to swear. My husband hates it. I know some of you don't mind. Shit out of luck. Okay. And pardon me if that upsets you. So, but you might be out of luck if you're now trying to go in.
You know what probably upsets your husband, Aisling, that you were trying to get at Jeffrey Epstein. That is probably what upsets your husband. And I don't blame him for that, but this too shall pass. Yeah.
All those houses in around Danielle and Elisa's neighborhood. But super great reporting from Fox on this street-facing ring cam. So interestingly, Fox actually did a further investigation. And what they did was they asked a retired NYPD detective and a national security expert named Pat Brosnan to review the video with them. I tried to do it, and I saw a lot of the comments saying, hey, can you slow it down? It's hard to do it on your iPhone. You have to do it on a computer. Even then, the images aren't always super perfect where you can slow it down. But Pat Brosnan, the expert that Fox conferred with, he seemed to feel that he could assess this 2:36 a.m. vehicle captured on the camera as a Kia Soul, S-O-U-L, a Kia Soul, based on slanted roof, the design of the windows, and the rear quarter glass. He also noted that there are vertical brake lights. Now, that is not an official assessment. That's not like we heard from the Idaho, the Moscow police said we're on the lookout for a white Elantra, period. White Elantra, right? Gave us a range and dates, but white Elantra. This is a retired NYPD detective and a national security expert. So for what it's worth, let's keep our ears open and our eyes open in case we hear in the coming days that law enforcement sources are asking, or law enforcement authorities are telling us to keep our eyes open for video of a specific vehicle. Till now, on day 26, we still have no vehicle to look out for. All these eyes.
Ashley's like, we're looking out for a vehicle, but we don't know what vehicle exactly.
On this story, all these potential, crime solvers have not been alerted to any vehicles to look out for. This is pretty interesting. It also makes me think, well, what do they have inside the 2-mile zone? If this is outside the 2-mile zone, what do you got inside the 2-mile zone? If you've been able to do what this expert, Pat Brosnan, was able to do, why haven't you told us to look out for this? I'm fascinated, again, because the FBI is involved as well. This is not just a Pima County investigation anymore. So I know people have been piling on, and I've been, part of that, onto some of the missteps of the sheriff's department. But the FBI is involved too. So I'm just really interested. Did you not have any luck in finding any video on that morning? This isn't a January 11th video, right? This is that morning, that time, within, 8 minutes and a 7-minute drive away. So super, super interesting. Okay, so I'm going to ask Maureen O'Connell about this in just a moment. She's just, chef's kiss on her knowledge base, former FBI special agent and, security expert in her own right. So I'm going to talk to her about that in a second. But I also want to tell you a bit of other news that I've learned from my law enforcement source. And I think this is really fascinating stuff. We've kind of lost sight of the range.
I said earlier too, guys, let me know. Evie's here now. Evie, for Corey Richardson's trial, should we do a marathon, catch up, or we should just jump into day 5? I haven't been watching and I want to get caught up. Let me know.
Rover, the silver Range Rover, right? That was towed and license plate covered and taken into evidence and assuming processed by law enforcement sources after that February 13th, Friday night raid. Do you remember just the massive law enforcement response to the neighborhood that was only about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home? And a woman and another young man and then another man at a different location at a Culver's restaurant, all
Yeah. Whatever happened to the Range Rover?
detained while that house was searched. Okay, found out some information about it from my source. Here is what I've learned. The Range Rover, as of several days ago, still part of the investigation, right? Also, what I learned was that the Range Rover, because we all wondered, the Range Rover looked dirty and dusty. It looked like it had been in the Culver's parking lot for a while. But the guy was sitting in a law enforcement vehicle in cuffs being questioned. Did he connect to it? Yes. The answer is, according to my source, yes, he was connected. He was the one driving that Range Rover. Did he own it? That is unclear. And even that was being sort of bandied about through law enforcement.
Okay.
And what my source says, connected to that vehicle, possibly using that vehicle for illegal activities. That's what my law enforcement said.
So they were selling weed. They didn't have Nancy.
They were trying to assess the ownership of it, not necessarily that he owned it, but he had been driving it that night. In fact, a law enforcement plane had been following him for quite some time prior to the raid. That is super interesting. So he was under that kind of surveillance from above, from a plane. Why the Culvers? So my source told me that the woman in the home is definitely his mom. Couldn't tell me about the other man being his brother, but there was some reporting that was unconfirmed that the other person was his brother. But the woman who was taken from the home and, according to the New York Times, taken to a neighbor's, and, the neighbor was asking, you just, help her to stay here, keep her comfortable while we search the hell out of her house with a warrant. So he had been at the house. The man who was detained at the Culvers had been at his home with his mother and went out to get food, went out to pick up food. And that, according to my source, was the time that they decided this was a good time to hook him up. Put the cuffs on, detain, ask questions. So they followed him to the Culvers as he was thinking he was going to go grab some food and come home. And that's when they...
What does he have to do with Nancy?
All simultaneously, went into action. Grabbed his mom, pulled her out, and the young man, and then grabbed him with a separate set of units at the Culvers. So I'm told by my source that they seized their phones and that they still had them. As several days ago, they still had those phones because it could take weeks to process whatever material they wanted to get out of those phones. And you understand, grabbing phones isn't just an automatic thing. There's a process, there's a privacy issue, there's warranting, there's all sorts of stuff that you have to do. And it could actually take some time if there are, say, encrypted apps on phones. So they're going to take apparently several weeks from February 13th. And here we are, February 26th. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. Exactly that raid happened and that those detainees were held, questioned, and released with no charges. Okay, why him?
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say, okay, but wait, what the hell does this have to do with Nancy?
This is interesting. So in order to get the warrant, my law enforcement source tells me, in order to get the warrant.
Okay, Austin says it's his girlfriend who's related to Nancy. Oh, shoot. Because the kidnapper had some trusting eyes. Hashtag justice for the rug dealer. Okay, don't get me started, pizza. Justice for the rug dealer.
Come after this guy and the home he was in with his mom and whoever else it was. They used cell phone data, his criminal history, including illegal trafficking. They used the fact that he had a similar description as the suspect on the
Evie, but it's on court TV for tomorrow. I thought she was detained and she was arrested at home. Okay, but she had nothing to do with her kidnapping. Great. Isn't that what we're concerned about here?
doorbell cam.
Nancy.
And here's the big one.
Nancy, where art thou?
Had a specific tip from a person. They had a specific tip from a person. So they used all of that to go to a judge or a magistrate, whoever it was that signed off on the warrant and got that warrant. And again, since they had been trailing him with the plane from above, my assumption is that that warrant was kind of in place and ready to go for a little while, because they decided exactly on the time, and that they'd wait, as he went out to get food, that they'd grab him separately and go through the house at a separate time. So lots of really, really interesting information. And then this last piece that I found so fascinating, I have not been able to put my finger on why the law enforcement members who were on scene at the Culvers and searching, photographing the silver SUV, the silver Range Rover. And then suddenly they put up those privacy shields and we all lost our ever-loving minds, because we thought, oh my God, that's usually, a body, you're putting up.
Yeah, what are they doing there? Don't tell me they pulled the sheets out for the weed plants, the rugs.
Privacy shields like that, it usually means you're about to take a body out of the back of a vehicle. So up went the back, hatch of the Range Rover, up went the privacy shields. Cameras were everywhere. I've learned why. It was not because they suspected a body was inside. It was not. It was because we were all there with cameras. They were well aware, the agents on the ground and the sheriff's deputies on the ground were well aware of the number of cameras that could have a direct line of sight into the back of this vehicle. And so that is the only reason. They just wanted to get a better look at the evidence inside the back of the vehicle and not give us that same right, right? So those shields went up just so that they could get eyes on without the window, without the dirty window in between them. But it was not because they had seen anything through those windows that they suspected at the time was a body. It was just solely that, just to keep us prying eyes. And it worked, because all we saw was privacy shields, right? But my God, did it ever lead to crazy speculation that, my God, there might be a body in there, right? And it all dispelled the next day when the sheriff's department said nobody arrested, the detainees released, and that yes, a raid had been executed that night. So lots of really interesting information on that. And as of about a week ago, Brian Enton had said that there was some meat on the bones of that investigation. Super fascinating. Meat on the bones meant that they would still be looking at that. We have not had enough.
I just really don't even think they have a lead. I really don't think they have any idea who did this, where the hell Nancy is. Sounds good. I'm so into a court case. Okay, Evie, what if we do like a real early morning though? I swear I lost faith in the sheriff within the first week. After I saw him with the disco shirt, I was like, I do not trust a man in that disco shirt. Not pretending, not like that. Not the sheriff.
Update from the sheriff,
not nanos,
or from the FBI as to the significance of that raid or that part of the investigation. But now that I know that it takes several weeks, that they had planned to take several weeks to extract information from the phones that they had seized in that raid, makes sense. They still have a lot of work to do, and they've got that evidence, so you don't release it till you've exhausted all of that work. All right, so I told you about
yeah, I was saying you're right. The new video with the car seems like it could be something. Yeah, it would be really great if, they were able to get a license plate, find out who it is. Maybe it's too soon to assume anything tonight, right? But why do I feel like they're going to botch that too? The FBI went in a few days ago for a final sweep. I believe they got the DNA now, this video. The time matches up too. Well, if it is them, they're booking it. They're running for the hills tonight. They're like, all right, they got us. We got to escape. We got to leave. It could be something or it could be nothing, right? The kidnapper's probably watching the news. and sees that Fox now has them on video. And they're like, oh shit, what's our next move?
Maureen O'Connell. And let me tell you, I turned to her, and I have for years, by the way. You may just be seeing her if you're new to the true crime world because of all the work that she's been doing lately on this particular story and her analysis. But
alive or not, I'm with you, Abuelita. I hope they find her. She needs to be laid to rest peacefully. I hope it's not something like the Celeste Rivas case. If you guys haven't watched my video, go watch it. She was just dismembered. Well, not just, but they just released it, and you know, it's brutal. Does Tucson have a drone program? I don't know.
I've been interviewing and watching Maureen O'Connell for a very long time.
I love
because
Maureen O'Connell.
She's smart. She is a former FBI special agent and host of the podcast Best Case, Worst Case, and all around really smart lady. And I'm going to talk to her in 1 second. But first, quick note from my sponsors. It's that time of year again, tax time, always stressful.
All right. Hopefully.
Yeah, I like what Maureen has to say. I like her.
tnusa.com/DDS, for Drop Dead Serious. Again, tnusa.com/DDS,
Okay, Ashley.
or you can just click the link below.
Chill out.
Now, here's my conversation with Maureen O'Connell. What do you make of this new series of images? All these vehicles, a dozen vehicles passing by someone's ring cam a half mile outside of the perimeter that they had canvassed for people's videos.
I'm so happy I could jump up and down.
Oh.
It's always going to come back to a vehicle. So many crimes start with the vehicle, end with the vehicle, and the arrests are a result of a vehicle. So I am very, very happy. If we were able to tell what type of car it is, we can start looking in other places for it. Just the color and the shape, and even if you can narrow it down to 2 or 3 different vehicles, it's gonna be great. Hopefully, this is the break we've all been praying for.
Well, let me bring this up again. A retired NYPD detective and national security expert named Pat Brosnan told Fox that his review of their video suggests it's a Kia Soul based on the slanted roof, the window design, the rear quarter glass, and the vertical brake lights.
These cops know their cars because they're always looking for cars. We're always looking at surveillance tape, and we're always trying to figure out who people are and what shady behavior they're up to. So if he says that's what it is, he's probably real close. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a very square body, isn't it, on that Kia Soul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know my cars, but it looked like it on the video.
Yeah. All right. I can't wait to see that. That's excellent news.
It is. And I'm so interested to hear that the time is.
Yeah, Agent Oren, I see a lot of people out there. You asked about the drones. Yeah, Brian Enton had one. There's people out there who have drones, but if you mean Pima County, that would be nice. The robbers drove a Kia. Yeah. So now they're gonna do what they did in Idaho 4. They're gonna run their little car reports and see who owns a Kia within an approximate, number of feet. Yeah, she did say it in the most monotone. You guys, somebody said earlier or whatever, it could be something or it could be nothing.
2:36 a.m., which is just 8 minutes after Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker was separated, and it's roughly only a 7-minute drive between these two homes. That's got to mean something.
It definitely means something. Whenever you get information on a case, Ashley, throwing it up on the timeline is always really important, and it can tell you a lot of things. And that is so close to the time that this potentially happened, and when her pacemaker separated from her phone. Yeah. So her phone was left in her bedroom, and it sounds like they got her out the front door. And
wait, could the perp have gotten her phone and disconnected or something? I don't know. Sheriff stations have a department. Oh, aren't they kicking people off the street now? Yeah, no one's allowed there. You have to get an Uber if you're in the media, or I think that's what JLR is doing. No cars allowed to be parked. Yeah.
When she probably got onto the front porch, her pacemaker lost connection with the phone, and that's probably where this vehicle pulled up, and they put her in the vehicle.
And drove off. And so I keep thinking about this neighborhood. It's very, very dark, very hard to navigate, but somebody might have decided that this is a back road that leads out of Mrs. Guthrie's neighborhood and avoids the major intersections. You'd either have to know your way around in the dark of night, or you'd be using some kind of a navigation app. I can only imagine the FBI has.
No, not if they're familiar with the area. Like, hello, not everyone, I use map because I'm bad with directions and like roads and stuff. That's just me. But I'm the type, like, I'll GPS my own way home. Like, but anyways, they don't, if they're familiar with the area, they don't need a map. They don't need a map. Like,
been able to at least tap some kind of intelligence on the use of navigation apps in that exact neighborhood at that exact time.
Yeah, or you could roll old school and just and do a couple of dry runs. Do dry runs in the day and a couple dry runs at night, which are a lot harder. And when they're coming down that street, they probably had their headlights off. It had to be just pitch black, or just their parking lights, because you don't want to draw attention. And you never know when someone's going to just be walking their dog in the middle of the night. So you just got to be very careful. My guess is they pulled.
I don't know how you'd see, though, without headlights. It is pitch black because of the University of Arizona's contract to keep the lights down for the astronomy programs.
Right. Well,
no. Yeah, I do. I suck with directions. Sorry. No road trip with Melly. Haha, JK. No road trip with me. We're going to be using the maps for sure. For sure.
You have a place, you have a cabin.
By that, I mean navigation, not an actual map, because I find those difficult to understand.
Our family has one, and it's pitch dark. And sometimes I just turn the lights off to see how dark it is. And could I drive around here at night? And no, only if you know it really, really well. But I'm just saying that when they pulled up to the house, they likely turned the lights off completely, pulled into the driveway, not the circle driveway. I would say the driveway to the side, but you'd have to have your lights off there just in case she was already up in the middle of the night,
Yeah,
some people
absolutely.
can't sleep.
So the other thing I was wondering is if they were able to capture these images from a ring cam that was pointed towards the street 2.5 miles away.
So that was it. Just one house, almost 3 miles away, was the only house that got anything. What about all those other $1 million houses? No cameras, no nothing.
Must have something similar within the 2-mile radius, no?
Yes.
Could it be that the whole neighborhood plotted her death?
I mean,
shit.
Those houses are set so far back. You can have cameras all around your house. You're not going to be able to see to the street. You may see that there is a light going by, but you're not going to see much else because there's no ambient light out there. There's no street lights.
And I don't mean like the neighbors seriously did it, but I mean, geez, like nobody, and then they get all mad when people are there.
That I think is I think they've beaten that that point to death. I am disappointed that when they didn't get any information from their original perimeter, that they didn't extend the perimeter. I'm very disappointed in that.
That's my next question is, I thought about a 2-mile radius. That's a lot of property. That's a lot of, that's a big area. But these properties are all big. They're not stacked against each other. You're not talking about tens of thousands of homeowners. You're talking about a few hundred. Why would they have even chosen 2 miles? Why not just start really big and then pick your investigations, in the middle of the concentric circle? Because those videos could be overwritten by now.
Yeah, but I mean, they were asking for them right at the very beginning. And the bottom line is, when you consider things like most traffic collisions or most accidents happen within a 1 or 2 mile radius of your house, because that's where you are most of the time. We know for a fact they were at Nancy's house. We know for a fact they left Nancy's house. So I think a 2 mile perimeter.
Wait, how do we know? Because of the pacemaker?
is a really good starting point. But when that didn't, when nothing came of that, it's time to open your perimeter, open your aperture a little bit more, and let's see what we can come up with, even if it's another quarter of a mile all the way around or something.
Yeah.
Or just the areas near the back road, wherever there's an egress.
Everybody's different in their settings, but a lot of these things overwrite. Like you can't sort of say, well, let's say in a month we don't get anywhere. Let's go ask people for video a month from now. Well, you're not going to get it. The time to ask is right away. Remember in Moscow, they were asking businesses for video a little too late, and they said, sorry, it's overwritten already. You got to ask for it right away. Well, I cast a really wide net and then just start gumshoeing through it.
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't mean to wait a month. I meant, within those first couple days when you didn't get anything that was fruitful, open it up a little. Start asking for mutual aid and get people to go to those areas, at least along the roads that lead out of there, because my understanding is there aren't that many. And if this is the one that avoids the major intersections, that's definitely one to look at. You would think.
And we don't know if the sheriff or the FBI is going to release this to the public saying, hey, everybody, let's start looking for a vehicle we think might be a Kia Soul, like the Moscow police said with the white Elantra. We just don't know if there's evidentiary value here. All we know is what Fox was able to find from these neighbors, and the fact that the neighbors were surprised they weren't canvassed. I guess we'll watch this space for that. Let's move on to the other topic, and that is the silver Range Rover that we all seem to have forgotten about is still,
I didn't forget about it.
Yeah, right. It's still in play. And I've learned from, my law enforcement source.
We didn't forget about it either, Ashley girl. We've been wondering.
That the guy they were targeting was at his mom's house and then, left to go pick up food. And that's when they decided to move in 2 different locations and grab the mom, pull her out of the home and search the home and grab him in the Culver's parking lot. And it turns out he was driving the silver Range Rover and they had a law enforcement plane overhead. Any of that a surprise to you?
No, because it probably had something to do with cell phones, because anyone that was in that area, they were part of that geofence region. And so they were probably looking at this guy, and it was I don't know if they had they must have had the tag if they had the bird up.
Yeah, my source said that the plane had been following him for a while, end quote.
Yeah.
Like, quote unquote, so for a while.
So they had the tag. They knew when that truck was purchased. Or leased. My understanding is a truck just like that on the surround of the license plate. It had the name of the dealership, and they had pretty much that truck on their website as being sold just a couple of days before before Nancy's attack or abduction.
So we weren't able to find out if he owned that. My source only said that he was connected to that vehicle, could have been using it for criminal activity, and was driving it at that time. So that was the connection. He was connected to that silver Range Rover. But the other interesting thing is that they used criminal history of illegal trafficking, the fact that he physically had a similar description as the person on the ring cam or on the doorbell cam at Nancy's house. They used cell data, you were right, and that they had a specific tip from a person. That's a lot of stuff. And it sounds to me like that's an easy warrant.
That's probable cause. Yeah, right there. You've got probable cause. So that's good. And people were saying, oh, they got him and then they let him go. Yeah, probable cause will get you the warrant, but it's not going to always get you the arrest. You just have to relax and understand that.
So the other issue my source told me was that they got the phones in that raid, and as of just a few days ago, they still had them, but that it could take, quote, weeks in order to extract the information that they might be looking for.
Well, it's not going to take. It probably wouldn't take that long to get a lot of stuff off the phone, but for encrypted apps where you're going to find anything you really want to see, that's going to take a lot longer. And obviously they're not cooperating, or it all would have been extracted already.
A lot of people have been talking about these 2 raids that we've watched, and that those who were hooked up in those raids and detained and then released. And if they're innocent, they it's actionable that they could sue the department. It's really, really hard to sue the government. It's really hard to sue the police. But I am sort of curious about the mother of this guy, because now my source says this is his mother in the house. She's pulled out of her house. She's taken, according to the New York Times, to the neighbor, where the FBI agents say, could you just look after her for a while we raid her house? Does she have a case?
Okay, so you can get a warrant over a tip, but like, can you be arrested? Because he was detained. They took his DNA and everything. Still can't get a warrant from a tip. Yeah. It's because they wanted to, said Hossein.
Given that she's not the person, she's not the target.
No, but she lives in the house. Yeah. If they have a warrant for the house, they've got a warrant for the house. It happens all the time. We would have a warrant for like a drug warrant, and it's for let's say one guy named John, and he lives there with 3 or 4 other people. We're looking for narcotics. We're looking for narcotics that we can tie directly to John, and we ask questions of those people that live there when we find stuff. Who does this belong to? Who has dominion and control over this particular room? Or is this his room? Where is his room? All that kind of stuff. And we're able to search the whole house, but we want to be able to tie whatever evidence we find to the offender that we're looking at.
Even if he doesn't live there.
So he doesn't live, the son doesn't live there?
I'm not sure. I'm just curious. If he doesn't live there, they still have that same full right to raid the house if he spends time there.
He must be spending the night there, and so he stays there. And they had to bed him down in that location. There had to be a number of different data points to tie him to that location, and they oftentimes they'll have to what we call bed him down there, meaning we take him there, we follow him there, and we watch his car, and it stays there until, let's say, 11:30 or 12 at night. And then you either sit on it all night or you come back the next morning at 5 and the car is still there. You've now bedded that guy down in that location.
It's interesting. What do you make of the whole use of privacy shields, given that my source said it wasn't about a body? They didn't see a body through the windows. They just wanted to open the hatch, get a good look at what was in the back of the silver Range Rover, and just knew that there were just a lot of prying eyes with camera lenses nearby. And they put those privacy shields up for that reason.
I think it's smart. I would do it. I would absolutely do it. We would put those pop-up tents up if we thought we had human remains, and even though it wasn't remains there, I don't know what was back there. Maybe they didn't know what was back there because those windows appeared to be tinted pretty dark. So maybe they weren't sure what they were going to find. And then when you reach in and you lift up a blanket.
But my source did say they didn't suspect it was a body, and that they put the shields up not because they thought.
Ashley, why you gotta interrupt her like that?
There was a body, just because they wanted to look at the evidence without all the reporters seeing it.
That makes sense. I would absolutely do that myself. Yeah. Because nothing is the press has been omnipresent with their drones up all around the house since the very beginning, and it's just this insatiable desire for evidence. But we have to, or the law enforcement has to protect the investigation. As much as we want to know everything and we want to know it right now, they're charged with, just for Nancy, for her sake, we're trying to protect all the evidence.
Well, it is an insanely high-profile case. I mean, I don't have to tell anybody that. If they're watching this podcast, they know it. To that end, what do you make of the activity outside the house yesterday? All the folks showing up in blue suits and walking around the perimeter and walking inside, and the black SUVs with the tinted window, one of them going into the garage, and, the garage door coming down and then it leaving quickly an hour later. Like, what's your...
Guys, what if we don't ever find out what happened to Nancy? What are we going to do?
On all the
seconds for that garage door, by the way. 11 seconds to go up, 11 seconds to come down, because I'm always thinking about that garage door and that 2 minutes and her getting in the house. And I always think whoever dropped her off had to go out a different door, because that's just not enough time,
Really?
To open the garage door, have Nancy walk in.
Oh my gosh. Maureen is right. This is my theory when I said, like, someone had to have already been there. Because if they had footage from someone going in through the garage, that would have helped them, right?
Like, what's your
11
read on all the
seconds for that
activity?
garage door, by the way. 11 seconds to go up, 11 seconds to come down, because I'm always thinking about that garage door and that 2 minutes and her getting in the house. And I always think whoever dropped her off had to go out a different door, because that's just not enough time, to
Really?
open the garage door, have Nancy walk in, because the police chief said initially
2 minutes. Yeah.
2
Door went
minutes,
up,
but
2 minutes later it came down.
family members got her in the house, got her settled, and got out. You can't do that in that amount of time with an 84-year-old woman with mobility issues. So I timed that. But I think it was probably Savannah in the SUV, in the black SUV that was with the smoked out windows, that they went into the garage and closed the door. And she was probably going in there, if they're operating, since the sheriff has completely cleared everyone in the family and anyone related to them. I mean, whatever. We're not going to get into that, but maybe they're operating under the assumption that this is some sort of a stalker situation. And if that's the case, the things that would be missing would be Savannah's personal items that might be in her room, like old photos or who knows what. People in situations like this.
I don't think it's someone that was obsessed with her. Again, I don't. Does this mean the sheriff turned it over to the FBI? I think so, Evie. If they found clothing, how would we know it's Nancy's? We don't even know what Nancy was wearing the night she went missing. Thanks, Jen, for stopping by. We have no idea. We have no idea. Do they even know that, what's her name? Annie and Tommaso dropped the Uber, or they dropped her off? Because she Ubered to their house, but do they know that? Like, do we even hear anything about the Uber driver?
Are obviously uber creepy, but they could have just wanted photos of her or some memento that made him or him feel like, she's my girlfriend or something. So
That's
maybe
a
she just
really
went up.
Good point. I never thought of that they might have said, we need to go in and assess the inside of the house to see the things that might be missing that maybe we overlooked because it wasn't valuables.
Right. Well, initially you're going to look for valuables because that's your assumption. At first blush, that's what this looked like. It's someone who it's a kidnapping and kidnapped for ransom, but that turned out not to be the case, or who knows what this is going to shake out to be, because it's just nothing any of us have ever seen before. But then if you move to someone is stalking her, it would make sense that they're going to take some trophies from her, or what people call trophies. So maybe they had her go in to see what was missing. She was also there not long ago when her mom did that show, and so they already got what Annie and her husband walked them through the house initially, and so they allowed them to tell them what was askew, this is exactly how it always is. Mom keeps her iPad here. That's where it is. That, this is out of place. This isn't.
That would be the morning.
It's not a kidnapping case. It's an abduction. The family did it. It's an inside job. Can't you smell it? It does kind of stink. Government is BS. They have way more footage than they're leading us to believe. Agent, I said that the last live I did. I absolutely believe they have footage of the garage, at least. Remember when something hit the Pentagon, only tampered gas stations footage is available. I don't think they know anything. Uber driver was cleared from the start. At this point, yeah, Blazer. The family did an inside job. Yeah. Not pointing fingers at the family, but my theories are starting to go that way.
You're talking about Sunday morning when they called for help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, that morning they were.
So what's an amateur that got away with one of the biggest crimes ever, and it's a professional, but they're getting nothing out of it other than killing Nancy, because there's the reward money still there. The ransom note stopped. So it's leading towards it was someone who wanted Nancy gone.
The walk law enforcement through the house. So today, I think they wanted, my guess, it's just an assumption, but my guess is they wanted Savannah to walk through and see if there's anything she could find that was missing or askew or, whatever. Because the person spent 41 minutes in there, and that's a long, long time.
Well, I keep wondering if they did. We only know that the camera was tampered with, but we don't know if that meant that the person entered the house at the time they tampered with the camera. I'm not sure. I'm still, my jury's out on that one. I don't know when they actually entered the house. We don't know the entry time. We just know the separation of the pacemaker time. So I'm curious about that. What do you make of the report that I was able to get from another law enforcement source that the blood droplets inside the house were the same pattern as the blood droplets outside the house, meaning there wasn't a sign of struggle, there wasn't footprints through them. It was more just the same droplet pattern that we witnessed, on the video outside the house.
Well, wherever she was bleeding from, the blood droplets were able to drop then, just drop straight down. And because the ones on the porch were all round and appeared to, I didn't get a good enough look at them, but they'll be able to tell, the blood experts will be able to tell exactly how far these droplets fell and whether they came from her mouth or not. Because if it came from her mouth, they'll be able to find saliva and other things in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just the whole thing.
Yeah. So have they done that? That's a good point she makes. They know it's Nancy's DNA, but they never said if it was from her mouth or not.
Just, we do everything in our lives to just treat the vulnerable members of our community the best way we can. And then to have something like this happen, it just breaks everyone's hearts. I
think it's why everyone's watching so intently, why it's so high profile. It's not just that it's Savannah's mom, it's just who does something like this, that part of the story. I was not able to find out from my source where in the house those blood droplets were, but my source did say that there were a couple things that stood out to them. That was number one, the front doorbell cam gone. My original source, different source, it said smashed. Back door wide open, blood droplets on the ground, and that the immediate reference was to tell the responding units, got to get out of here. Do not contaminate the scene. This is more to it than a missing woman who might have wandered off. So I don't know if that means that that the blood droplets may have been right there in that front entrance area because they were able to witness the door open, or whether they canvassed around the house and saw the blood droplets somewhere there. I can't tell you that. It would be helpful to know where the blood droplets were, though. And then couple that information with Savannah using the words in her video a couple days ago, where she announced that the reward would be $1 million from the family. She used the words, my mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed, taken from her bed in the dark of night. And I didn't know if she was, literal or.
Yeah. How do they know she was taken from her bed? Like, I get it that they went in at night and she could have been sleeping, but how do they know they literally picked her up from her bed? It makes it seem like, again, they know more than they're saying, right?
Or if it was literal, and Savannah is a journalist and she is a broadcaster and she knows words matter. It was the same terminology the sheriff used early on, and then walked back the next day saying, I didn't think you'd take me literally. It was just being figurative. But if Savannah was being literal and not figurative, that's a big piece of information that Nancy Guthrie
Savannah's not going to be figurative.
That's what I thought. Taken from her bed.
Yes, and the other reason I would guess that the blood was in the bedroom is because Annie and her husband were probably looking around the house and maybe not looking at that other side of the bed where the slider door is, but her mom had hearing issues. And if the person was yelling commands at her, she would not be able to hear them. And that may have been what caused whatever injury she had, because they thought she was ignoring them or whatever.
Okay, but she wasn't deaf, right?
And even trying to yank on her or something to get her out of the bed. And she had to, put her hearing aid.
No, I think Nancy knew what was going on. I think she realized something wasn't right.
It's in because I know a couple of, I have a sister that can't hear without her hearing aids. And I mean, she can't hear anything. And so
That's actually true. My mom can't hear without one of her hearing aids.
it's frightening. First of all, to be that frightened. Secondly, to not have your hearing aids in and you can't even communicate. It's just the worst case scenario.
Well, and Maureen, the New York Times did a piece talking to Nancy Guthrie's friends, and one of the friends said that she had recently begun using powerful hearing aids, which you're spot on. Her hearing would be very compromised if she was using powerful, those are the words used, hearing aids.
Yep. She's 84. It happens.
Let's talk.
I agree with you, Stacy. Stacy says, speaking of our most vulnerable citizens, why is Nancy getting all this attention, but missing children are getting nothing? Yeah, I know. I've said that many times before here. Everyone should be getting this much attention, every case. Hundreds and thousands of missing children and adults. At this point, my opinion, this is an inside family job, and I don't feel any outsiders were involved directly, but indirectly. It's somebody in the family. I really believe that, says Jen. A lot of people were leaning towards that. You know, it's like process of elimination here. I think we're all starting to feel a very similar way.
Talk a little bit about the, there's so much sleuthing going on online, and there's an image, if you zoom in on the perpetrator's pocket, there's something sticking out of the perpetrator's pocket. I thought at first it was the corner of an iPhone, but as I read through a lot of other folks who've put in their thoughts, some said it looked like maybe a lockpick pen, which I didn't realize. I mean, it stands to reason. A lockpick pen kind of looks like it might be that, or maybe even a walkie-talkie, which some people have said, well, that suggests that this person was working with an accomplice.
Yeah,
it could be a lockpick, I guess, but it looks to me, and I'm pardon me while I look down here, but it looks to me to be just a radio, like a radio antenna. I'm looking for that one.
Like a walkie-talkie?
Yep, like a walkie-talkie, because
oh, wow.
These guys didn't have phones on them. If they had phones on them and the Bureau didn't pick them up, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But if you look at that, if you look at some of these walkie-talkies that people have, you could call the car up without using your phone. You could tell your buddy, hey, pull it up into the Circle Drive now. And
if they don't have a cell phone, they would need a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, just like these.
Sure.
Yeah, those ones that we were talking about earlier.
Do you think that very small area of an image looks like the antenna of a walkie-talkie more so than the edge of a phone?
Much more so than the edge of a phone. And I asked my husband, who was a police officer for 38 years, and he said that's absolutely a radio. And I said, babe, we can't say that. That's just conjecture. And he goes, I carried a radio for 38 years. I know what it looks like. And it stands just like that when it's in your pocket. And you can't zip the pocket all the way closed because you have to have the antenna. You can fit an iPhone in any pocket. I mean, if that's the top of an iPhone, you're not going to let your iPhone hang out like that, because the last thing you want is to get into a struggle with someone and leave your iPhone at the crime scene. But this, you can cinch it up just to the just over the top of the radio portion and let the antenna stick out of your pocket.
Well, that would be huge if it was determined that this is a radio, because it does certainly speak to the possibility of somebody else being a part of this.
Right.
Sometimes I just, in my own personal thoughts, I hope there was an accomplice, and then I know it's not necessarily a sexual crime, because so few sexual crimes would involve an accomplice. And people
don't kid yourself.
Really,
people are savages.
I mean, I know, and most people who don't live the world that you and I live, and you more so than me, would say, well, who would think to sexually assault an 84-year-old woman? And unfortunately, so many times in our line of work, we see it. We just do. We see people who just do, and they're not off limits. The elderly are not off limits for these kinds of crimes, which is just unbelievable.
It's true.
It is unbelievable. But sometimes it doesn't actually involve an essay on the person. Sometimes just the fear you see in someone's face gives you sexual gratification. That's a whole different story, but that happens all the time too. Sometimes they just get off on the fear. Unbelievable.
Okay, last question. It may seem like it's kind of a small thing, usually an afterthought, an asterisk, whatever, but the sheriff yesterday put parking restrictions in place, no parking on either side of the street, all up and down where Nancy Guthrie lives. And again, that may seem like nothing to people until you realize the logistics of what it takes to broadcast from a location. And that location has been a broadcast location for 26 days. Is this the sheriff trying to get rid of the media on this story? Or is there some other legitimate reason you can see why that would happen? That kind of a restriction would be, get out of here. You can't have your gear here. You can hump it from blocks away to set up your camera location, but you can't park here and you can't use your vehicle for shelter or power or temperature control, any of that. What would you see as the reason for this?
I see a number of, I see a number of things that could be happening, but then they're saying that they're turning the house over to the Guthrie family again.
Yeah.
When I first heard this, my first thought was they're going to come in with a forensics team and go over the entire house. And even though it would be it would be really, really difficult for the prosecution.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do that. I don't even think they've ever been there long enough to do something like that.
If they could maybe find 3 or 4 other points with some good DNA in there, because no one's been in the house, even though it hasn't been sealed or anything. No one else has been in the house.
Yeah.
And the press has been around there pretty much the whole time.
What if the kidnapper or abductor or whatever it is went to the bathroom or something? Let them scan the house up and down. I carried a radio one night. I was venting to my partner about another agent. Oh, wow. Agent, that's crazy.
I don't know. I would give it another shot before I would turn it over to the family. I would look at every...
But I mean, the reporters are still there. The reporters can still be there. They just can't
but they're not going to be there as long. They can't.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Is the sheriff, I wondered if it was punitive, get the hell out of here, you've been horrible to me, or if it was really strategic, if there's some I just don't see a lot of strategy.
I hope there's a strategy.
Doing this.
I hope it's a strategy, and I hope it involves an evidence response team getting in there and just going bananas, because the one thing you want if you bring a big team in there is you want the whole street. You want everybody to be able to park their vehicles, have all their stuff, open their trunks, without people, all up in their business. The same thing like you talked about with those tarps that they were holding up. Nobody likes to work under those conditions, because a lot of this type of work requires, especially if you have younger people on the scene, they'll say, so for a scene like this, do you think it's better to use this or that? And you can't have anyone else hear that, because then you're going to get ripped apart on the stand. Because sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, do I use these cotton gloves under these nitrile gloves, or do you think I should use this other one because you sweat a lot? And someone with experience would be able to just say, you do this. It's what law enforcement is. We help out and mentor the younger generation, and so if it was something like that, if it's something like that, I'd be so happy, because even though it would be a long, hard road.
Did Ashley get lip fillers?
I think they could get a lot from it. I don't know what the search and evidence collection actually looked like those first 48 hours, and I've seen how well the Pima County Sheriff deputies are working with the FBI. They're all getting along great at the boots on the ground, but it's usually just the managers that are fighting with each other, or the hires up.
Listen, I don't know this business as well as you guys do, but I am just astounded that the bracket for the Nest Cam was left on the house, because if that guy had a bite light in his mouth, the only way to get a bite light in and out of your mouth is to take it, put it in, or
And you've
take
got
it out
saliva
with
everywhere.
your
I've been
hands.
saying that since the beginning.
And your hands are
That is very true. Like, they literally left no DNA.
then messing with that camera and bracket, and the only thing left behind was the bracket. So I just didn't understand why that bracket wasn't taken in the first place. And then what do you
Plus
know?
the rug.
2 weeks
on
later
the
it
front-
was.
The rug.
The rug, the half moon rug was there. It was left behind. The foliage that had dropped below. I mean, I really hope what you're
Yeah,
saying is
did they test the foliage for like fingerprints and stuff?
right, is that a massive evidence response team is going to come in. Not so much for the prosecution. I get it. There's a lot of chance for some of that ship to have sailed. But to find her, that's the number one priority. Find her. And then prosecute after. I get it. It's important. But the most important thing is just find her, whatever it takes.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of bees buzzing around. Just this since Savannah offered up that $1 million money reward. Yeah, thanks. Sorry. But if no one comes forward for $1 million, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
They can't, because they're the person who did it.
That's what I've been saying, you guys. I said, okay, there's no one stepping forward for $1 million, maybe even more.
I mean, when there's two or more, they're in a pressure cooker right now. One knows that the other one could pull the plug on them, and vice versa. And right now they've got nothing. They didn't get anything out of this.
Maureen, it's great talking to you.
Unless they wanted to hurt Nancy. If that was their one motivation, to hurt Nancy, then they did get something out of it. They did. Next video we're going to watch is Nancy Grace. Please tap that like button, guys. Please.
Day 26 as the investigation goes on. This, as we see a flurry of police and FBI activity at Nancy Guthrie's home in the last 24
I absolutely agree with what Maureen was saying, though. Like, they would have, someone would have come forward, or no? They wanted to hurt Savannah. Or Nancy. Sounds like whoever did it is going to already get money. I don't think they're getting anything out of it, like she said.
hours. We know that they brought in an elite video audio team. What were they looking for? Aerial video reveals that they combed the entire estate inside and out with a fine-tooth comb. What was happening? We also learned tonight that there is absolutely a DNA sample found in that home that is not Mrs. Guthrie's, that is not from her inner circle. It is being analyzed right now. We are also learning, did a neighbor unwittingly see the kidnapper, not realizing what she was seeing? And we learned tonight, what does a digital blackout have to do with catching the kidnapper? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you.
Nancy's not angry. She's just always so like heavy. I love Nancy Grace. Feral Cat, you can go watch Nancy Grace on your own. Don't come here talking shit. Did Savannah say something wrong? Does anyone know? I don't think so. Well, that I know of. Nancy's aging gracefully, no pun intended. Right. That 1 million is guaranteed, not like the FBI reward. Exactly.
For being with us.
We are hoping that the attention that has been given to our mom and our family will extend to all the families like ours who are in need and need prayers and need support.
A flurry of activity in and out of Nancy Guthrie's home, including federal prosecutors on the scene. Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. What happened?
Nancy, it was, you said it, a massive undertaking at Nancy Guthrie's home. Yeah, and it included apparently federal prosecutors on the scene. Here's how it developed, Nancy. As investigator vehicles are pulling up the driveway onto the property of Nancy Guthrie, there is one specific vehicle, a black SUV with all the windows blacked out. This vehicle continues on while the others stop in front of the home on the driveway. This one pulls into the garage. Garage door opens, the car goes in, garage door shuts. We never see who is in that black SUV. It's there for about an hour, and then the garage door opens back up, the car pulls out and takes off down the street. Others are investigators walking around the property. They being investigators, spent about an hour in the entryway, in the front door, where that Nest camera picked up the possible suspect in this kidnapping. They spent an hour there. Then the investigations moved into the foyer area of the home and spend another hour or so in that side of the house. But Nancy, we also saw from overhead views that these investigators were walking every piece of the property, all around the outside, including a wrought iron gate by the swimming pool. So it's only an easy assumption that they were doing the same thing inside the house.
You would think that, Jen. Jen says, like, for $1 million, you would think one of the perps would be like, you know what, I'm getting that money and breaking silence. Human nature is like that. It is. But what if they did participate in their murder as well? Then they would want immunity and or whatever,
where we couldn't see them. But investigators were there for several hours, and they were federal prosecutors as well as our regular detectives. It was an ongoing event all day long, and don't know what the end result is yet.
To Dr. Bethany Marshall joining us, psychoanalyst out of the LA jurisdiction. She is the author of Deal Breakers. You can find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Bethany, thank you for being with us. Dr. Bethany, Mrs. Guthrie is an 84-year-old woman. And contrary to speculation online and beyond, it wasn't like, "Hi, Mrs. Guthrie, can you let me in?" And she went to the door and allowed the perp in. That did not happen. We now have proof she was dragged from her bed.
Well, we don't know that she was dragged, but we know she didn't open the door willingly.
What would be the response of a normal person, much less an 84-year-old lady in the middle of the night, 2 a.m.? Could she fight back? What I'm trying to get to is there going to be DNA at the bed, on the bed covers, on the pillows, and beyond? Okay, tell me.
So Nancy, remember, whoever did this, if they are kidnappers, they are ruthless. And this is a business-like approach to procuring money from the family of Nancy Guthrie. So she's 84. We have to take into account, did she wear hearing aids? Did she have an oxygen machine? Was she clothed or unclothed? Did she have a CPAP? What were those factors when they first accosted her? Secondly, the first 45 minutes of an abduction is the most dangerous.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Update. Breaking news. More to the story regarding the man who was taken into custody by Pima County sheriffs. He had driven by the home several times over the past few hours, some report up to 30 times. When he finally stopped in front of the home and a cameraman asked him what he was doing, he pointed to a picture of Nancy on his phone. When officers arrived, they questioned him through a translator. He said that he believed he had seen her and wanted to be sure.
There's usually a lot of violence. So what did Nancy Guthrie experience? It's similar to somebody who's in a mudslide or a tornado or a flood or something unanticipated. The first response is going to be shock, that the nervous system becomes activated, like the fight or flight syndrome. The second is going to be disbelief. This is not really happening to me. Similar to somebody who's in an accident, they tell themselves, this didn't really happen. It's a type of dissociation. After that, Nancy, they're likely dragging her to the front door. And remember, the skin on elderly people's arms and their legs and their torsos is extremely fragile. You grab somebody like that by the arm, their skin is going to tear. At that point, she's going to be experiencing more disorientation and confusion. DNA, of course, will be deposited all over the place, especially since the skin is fragile and will have torn. Now, when they get her to the front door, the blood trail stops. This has me extremely concerned because that means at that point they had to carry her and get her into some kind of a waiting vehicle. If she's conscious, at that point, Nancy, the realization will be sinking in that something disastrous is happening to her, and she's going to be trying to make sense of it.
Kelly O'Donnell says a federal official says the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Office have amassed 5,000 to 10,000 hours of video that is being processed in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Although tools can enhance video, each must be reviewed by an investigator in real time to start.
Guys, you are seeing the aerial video footage from our friends at Fox News. Joining me now, forensics expert, star of Zone 7, a hit podcast, and author of a brand new book on Amazon, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer, Solving the Cold Case. Cheryl McCollum, thank you for being with us. Cheryl, it seems to me, especially when you heard Dave Mack describing how they were going in and out of that pool gate, that they were looking for every single possible entrance, every egress into that property. Because when we see, and now it has been determined largely anyway, Cheryl McCollum, through no help of nanos, that the videos we were seeing, and you and I pored over them frame by frame, Cheryl, to determine, was that the same guy, the porch guy with the backpack, without the backpack? Notice how the rocks are positioned on the right side, and apparently a landscaper had moved them to where we see them on the left side. There is different plant configuration. The lighting is different, obviously, from two different occasions. How did he get in? How did he leave? Did he just waltz up the front walkway? I think they were looking at all those possibilities and more, Cheryl McCollum. You and I many times retraced a crime scene, and we would do it over and over and over. What do you think they were doing?
As soon as I saw the group yesterday, it made me think of what you and I have done many, many times. You get the prosecutor out there with one of the lead detectives with your federal partners, and you walk it together. They have to understand that scene. They have to understand what's in that front door. When you turn around, how does the street look? They've got to go in the back to see that back door as it relates to the guest house and the swimming pool. They've got to go to the side to see that sliding glass door. This is imperative for two reasons. One, the prosecutor is the only person that can make a deal. They have got to understand that scene. So when they're talking to somebody, when the federal people are interviewing a potential suspect eventually, they have to know immediately whether that person is telling the truth or not. Well, when you walk that scene, you know where the blood starts and where it goes through that house out that front door. You know what her bed cover looked like. You know what the kitchen looked like. You know what color the sofa is. If you don't go to that house, you don't know that. I thought yesterday was a critical move.
Cheryl, I agree. Guys, I want to go back to our footage from our friends at Fox News, the aerial video, because I noticed as they're walking by the pool and then they get to the gate, as they see them coming around the side, right there on the right, they're passing windows, they're going along a heavily shrubbed area where
I believe they have more footage, but do I believe they have enough? I mean, hello, the footage of Nancy being dropped off, them pulling away, them walking away. What does the back look like? Like if they went in through the back and they left through the back, is there a way to go through, like, is there a way out of there through the back? Like, and do you want other individuals to pay for information on kidnappers and safe houses? We had a distant relative rescued after Florence. He's never the same after that. Yeah. These guys are pawns in the bigger picture. He's going to collect that million. No, abuelitas, I don't know who would come forward. Whoever would come forward is going to want to negotiate. Yeah. Because whoever come forward is hiding something, right? They either participated in it to an extent, or maybe in her unaliving, or maybe they had prior charges from before. We don't know.
Very hard pressed to see someone. Now keep watching. They walk up to this wrought iron gate. Keep watching. They open up the gate. Then the Fed with the blue tie turns around and he is taking pictures. He's not talking. He takes a picture right there.
Maybe allegedly Tommaso or Annie or don't know if they both dropped them off together. Have they even clarified that? I thought they just said it was Tommaso. If it was just Tommaso, I don't know. A secret tunnel or underground bunker. After the Epstein files, anything is possible.
What is it they're looking at? And see, the other, either detective or prosecutor, turns back to look at what he was doing. Look at that. See? He's gesticulating there. Maybe how wide something is, I can't tell. Is that the way they took Nancy Guthrie out? Is that what they're looking at? You know, a lot has been made while we're on taking Nancy Guthrie out, Dave Mack, about these tunnels that were, forged originally out of water culverts, and they lead to Mexico. And could the perp have taken Nancy Guthrie down one of these tunnels? I find that fantastical because she can't walk.
Oh, whoa. That's interesting. Ramon just said the tunnels and Nancy's saying that.
For 50 yards. But yeah, that has taken over the internet. What can you tell me?
Well, Nancy, the tunnels that you talk about, the 𝗠𝗲𝗹𝗆𝗆 tunnels, they run close, the tunnels meaning near Nancy Guthrie's home, and they have resulted in the find of the backpack that had been abandoned. This is a tunnel that is an overwash area. One of them is actually called the Relito River Wash Area. Right now, these wash areas are dry, Nancy, and so there are homeless people that are spending their time inside these tunnels. Nancy Guthrie's home is located next to this Relito River wash area, and these tunnels do go for some distance. They vary in size and distance and quality, but you are talking about 60 miles from the Mexico border. You're not going to take a tunnel from north of Tucson all the way across the border. But these tunnels do offer a way of exiting out of the general vicinity and coming up someplace else where a car or a van could be ready to take her away. These areas are being searched by volunteers, Nancy. The volunteers that we're told not to search, they're the ones that are searching, doing anything they can to try to find Nancy Guthrie.
That's just a theory that has become popularized on the internet. I don't think there's any way that Nancy Guthrie was carried out through those tunnels, but now we've explained why that is not feasible. So let's turn our attention to something that is feasible. As we said, in the last 24 hours, the feds have been pouring over the Nancy Guthrie home. I hope it's not in their effort to release the home. Let me go out to you. Brian Fitzgibbons is joining us, Director of Operations, USPA, Nationwide Security. He actually leads a team of investigators that go around the world finding missing people. Former Marine and Iraqi war vet. You can find him at USPANationwideSecurity.com. Brian, I want to talk to you about the feasibility, once and for all, of taking Nancy through these intricate tunnels did not happen, and how suggestions like that are half-baked are slowing down the investigation.
Well, to answer that question first, I agree that this is not feasible for the first and most obvious reason. We know that Nancy can't on her own walk more than 50 meters. So just the logistics of getting in and out of the tunnel would provide a major challenge. Now, the tunnels would provide concealment of movement, all right? In a panic situation, robbery gone wrong theory scenario, it might fit in. But I want to add one key thing here. This tunnel, the entrance to that tunnel is miles away from Nancy's home. So after the perpetrator removed her from the house, why would he stop in the vehicle to go into that tunnel? It doesn't, the logic doesn't add up.
Well, you're right, Fitzgibbons. To be exact, it's 8 miles away. Back to you, Cheryl McCollum, before I get to the rest of our panel. Cheryl is actually out on a scene right now. Cheryl, releasing the scene too quickly. Remember, in Brian Koberger, if I have to raise his specter up, the home was demolished on King Road. What if a potential jury needed to see the layout of the home? Completely impossible. 3D reconstructions, well, they're great, but it's not like the real thing. Think about Alex Murdaugh. There were plenty of 3D reconstructions done in that case. But in the end, the jury went back to the scene. They went all the way back to see where Maggie and Paul were murdered. Remember? And it was crucial. It made a difference in the minds of a lot of jurors.
Nancy, at the police academy, we are taught you get one shot.
I don't think they took her through a tunnel. I think that Nancy's buried somewhere. Possibly.
You don't get to go back 3 and 4 and 5 times like we've seen here. That's not a good look. There is no rush. There is no reason when you have an 84-year-old woman missing that you know has health problems, you know she doesn't wander off, she's got her faculties, and you've got blood at the front door. You seal that off until you have a good handle on what has absolutely occurred. There's no way that we would have released that scene, you and I, if we were working this back in the day, for at least a week.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. And remember, in the Parkland shooting, that school.
We've all agreed that they botched that part, most of the investigation, actually.
Stayed closed for 7 years. Now, I'm not advocating a 7-year delay in the judicial process, but why? What's the hurry?
That's why I asked the other night, Abuelita. Abuelita says, I think they put on water to remove their DNA. Yeah, I said that the other night. That's why I said what, like, large bodies of water were around there. And did they search for her in the water? I don't even think they did like a grid search or anything for Nancy. I think it's been volunteers mainly looking for her.
Family doesn't live there. Why would you hand it over now? Because at that point, you find evidence a week from now. No, it likely will not come in because you've lost your chain of custody. Don't screw this up. As Cheryl McCollum just said, you've got one chance. Don't blow it by releasing the scene too soon. Scott Eicher with me right now, and Susanna Reed, DNA expert. Don't move a hair. I'm getting to the DNA. Scott Eicher is a founding member of the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team, Norfolk, Virginia, Homicide Division, 12 years, and he is now at Precision Cellular Analysis. Scott, thank you for being with us tonight. I want to talk to you about that elite video and audio crew that went in with the feds. And this was like in a movie.
I didn't even think about that wildlife. You're right. They're in the desert. There's a lot of coyotes out there too.
It was never anything like that when I was prosecuting. But a big trail of black SUVs, some of them with the windows blacked out, all caravan to the home, and they all trooped out. Okay. To reality, what can the video team hope to find? What are they looking for? What are they documenting? They had audio there, image analysts. What was it all about?
Well, these are experts in looking at videos, pulling videos from different mediums and enhancing that data. Now, a personal visit to that location also helps them understand, all right, what are they seeing in the video? That archway that the suspect is walking up to the house, how big is it? Are they measuring the different points of where, when he walked in, how can we determine how tall he is when he's up at the camera, like we're seeing on the screen now? So these are experts in that aspect of looking at the data, getting measurements from it, and helping the investigation through the video enhanced.
See, it seems like he's knocking, or like he thought the door would be unlocked or something when he does that.
And taking these type of measurements.
Hi, guys.
To offer
8-6.
to offer a large reward. This is not true. There's a very specific psychology to offering rewards. If they had offered that reward in the beginning, the perpetrator might have panicked and killed Nancy Guthrie. What the family did at first was they appealed to morality. Savannah Guthrie was saying things like, we believe in the goodness of human nature. Well, that did not work, Nancy. So now with this $1.2 million reward, that does break the bonds of loyalty because.
Wow. 1.2 million. How do they see a ring on the person? I don't see shit on that person.
That is big money. That's
so
lifetime
sweet.
money. So a sister, a girlfriend, somebody he once dated, and that person's no longer with him, a neighbor, they're going to start thinking seriously about the clues. Who disappeared in the middle of the night? Who drives a car like that? Do I have a friend who owns that kind of a jacket or a backpack? It's a little like when the Powerball or the lottery keeps climbing and climbing. Somebody who might not have bought a lottery ticket, they're going to stop into their local 7-Eleven and buy one, Nancy, because now they're not internally motivated. We go back to people around the perpetrator. The internal motivation didn't work. The appealing to morality. So now there's extrinsic motivation, which is profit and greed.
In the last 24 hours, feds, federal prosecutors, and an elite team of videographers, audio, you name it, crime scene image analysts are back at the scene doing what? They went in, closed the doors. As Dave Mack advised you, one of the SUVs went into the garage and closed the garage door. We didn't know what they were doing in there, but we can surmise. Also tonight, we are learning that there is a viable DNA sample found in the home. It does not belong to Nancy Guthrie, and it does not belong to her inner circle, her family, her friends, the people that work in her home. However, Nanos, in his wisdom, blurts out, it's mixed. The fact that DNA is mixed is just that. It's a hurdle to jump over, and typically not much of a hurdle. This is 2026, and now DNA can be extricated, it can be isolated and analyzed, and there's nobody better to do that than Susanna Ryan. She is a laboratory director and forensic DNA analyst at Pure Gold Forensics, DNA consultant at Ryan Forensics, 25 years in the DNA business in both public and private DNA facilities. Susanna, thank you for being with us. I've tried a lot of cases without DNA. I've tried a lot of cases with DNA. I remember the first time I heard the word deoxyribonucleic acid, and I knew at that time.
I mean, mixed or not, they already said it's not viable in CODIS, right?
6th grade, I would need to be able to say it off the tip of my tongue. And I recall actually practicing the word in the 6th grade. I never needed it until many, many years later when I was prosecuting my first DNA case. That said, mixed DNA? Fine, bring it on. I want to hear from you. Technically, explain to us mere mortals, how you would get that DNA sample from inside Nancy Guthrie's home, and you would isolate the DNA and then analyze it. How do you do it?
Okay, well, to be clear, we have to be aware that I think there are two different types of mixtures that we're talking about. And I think that what most people are used to hearing about is the traditional DNA testing, what we call STR testing. And that stands for short tandem repeats. And so that's what you usually hear about. That's what most crime labs in this nation and across the world are using. That's the type of DNA that goes into the CODIS databases. And we do have a lot of tools to help us with mixtures with STR testing, that traditional testing. right? We have, over the years, we've learned manual methods to separate the DNA out. We have software programs now that are really advanced and can work with low-level mixtures.
I feel like she had to have something, right? Like a housekeeper. Maybe not someone like permanently, but someone. It is a big house.
We can even put some
And she can't really move that well.
mixtures into the CODIS database. We're able to do that now and try to get a match that way. And certainly we can do direct comparisons to mixtures. But the other type of mixture that I think is kind of getting lost in translation here is the genealogical mixtures. And that is a totally different type of DNA testing. That is called SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms. And those are much more difficult to work with when we have mixtures. Those are single base pairs. So I was trying to think of a way to describe this. And, we have, when we have mixtures and we look at DNA data, we have a series of peaks. And with STR testing, there's some gaps, there's some room between those peaks. With SNP testing, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of individual base pairs. And so each one of those, there's a peak. So I was thinking, like, if you're thinking about the teeth on a comb, right? Like each one of those is a single base pair change. And then if you have another comb that is placed in there that has the same peaks at the same locations, it is incredibly difficult to interpret the mixtures. And I can kind of give you a real life example, if you'd like, about interpreting mixtures. Some of the cases that I've worked on, it's kind of two different cases where one was very successful, where we were able to use genealogy. It was a cold case from the 80s, and I used the MVAC. I was able to get a profile from the victim's, something he was wearing. He had been picked up and thrown over a bridge. Was able to get a profile. It was a mixture of two people. It went into CODIS without a match, and we were able to do genealogy on that. And the reason that one worked was because the victim was the minor contributor. The unknown person was contributing more than 75% of the DNA. So that genealogy lab, which it was Othram that did the testing, they were able to break that apart and say, okay, we know our person of interest is this major contributor. I have another case right now that Othram we've spoken with, and at this time, they can't work with it because the situation is reversed. Now, my victim is the 75% contributor, and the unknown person, the unknown male, is only 25%. And right now, they can't do anything with that. And so when Nanos says, we think in a week, a month, a year, we'll have something we can work with, he's talking about deconvoluting SNP mixtures, and we're just not there yet.
Susanna, I do not believe, and I have tried mixed DNA cases, specifically in.
Yes.
I've had up to 3.
Agent, you said housekeeper would be the main suspect. Yeah, and she's probably already cleared or something. Access to key and alarms. And I'm sure maybe the housekeeper wouldn't want to be in this type of media, or maybe so. I don't know. It's been 4 weeks. Ain't nobody breaking their neck for $1 million that they won't even get without an arrest. That leads up to conviction. Even Sheriff Dane Rito 911 officers know that. Yeah.
Donors in the mixture.
DJ.
It is not going to take a year to separate this DNA, to separate Nancy Guthrie's DNA from the perp's DNA. Not going to happen. We already know the contributors in the home, the family, the friends, the workers. We know it's not them. So it's not going to take a year. And I don't know why Nanos blurted that out again. Now, if you get into genetic genealogy, just think about it. Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, that didn't take a year. And they went all the way back practically to the Mayflower to figure that out, for Pete's sake. So blurting out, it'll take a year, is not helpful. What?
Correct. I understand. But that was single source. And a lot of the cases that you're hearing being solved are cases where there's a body fluid. There's blood, there's semen. It's single source. They can get that SNP profile and start building out the family trees. It's when you have a mixture and you're trying to do SNP testing, that's where the difficulty lies. And there are companies that are working on programs to tear those mixtures apart to be able to work with SNP mixtures. And that is what the technology is that Nanos is talking about that is developing.
In addition to DNA technology, and to me, Cheryl McCollum, it's a huge stride forward that we have identified a DNA sample in the home that is not related to Nancy. It's not a friend.
Yeah, but Nancy, they already said it. They can't do anything with it.
It's not a worker in the home.
That's what
It
they
is
said.
stranger DNA, and they have it, and it is being analyzed. At the get-go, it was, woe is me. We're not going to find anything. Well, they found something. Every time it seems that Nano says, well, we're down and out. There's no video. A miracle happens. A thunderbolt strikes, and lo and behold, we do have video, and we do have DNA. What is his problem?
I'll tell you, he should have never said it's going to take a year, because that lets the perpetrator know, hey, I've got plenty of time to still hide and get away and destroy evidence. What it says to me that it's a mixture, that is a money tree, Nancy, because that is proof on proof that this perpetrator, this assailant, became in contact with our victim prior to her disappearance.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And when they separated, and they will, and when they get him through ancestral means, and they will, that's going to be something he cannot explain or wiggle his way out of.
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here.
She's very confident.
But yes, I do have a ruler in my hand, and I will use it. Iker, as you know, a founding member of the FBI cellular analysis team, Norfolk, Virginia PD, homicide, 12 years, precision cellular analysis. Digital blackout. In a nutshell, what is it and how can we use it?
A digital blackout is referring to when the suspects turn off their electronic devices at the time of the crime so that they can't be tracked. Now, how good is that? I mean, did they turn off Bluetooth? Did they turn off their phone? Did they turn off Wi-Fi? That all depends on how smart they think they are. One of the
I don't think they brought a phone.
A lot of the things that we find is that they might turn it off during the actual crime, but not turning it off when they're casing the crime scene prior to the crime. So we can look at that type of data, see what phones were there before and were not there at the time of the crime.
Okay, here's my question. And for the rest of the panel, please jump in with questions for Iker. Scott Iker, how do you go about, okay, here's a perfect example. Brian Kohberger. He turns his cell phone off as he approaches the murder scene.
Mm-hmm.
The King Road address where he brutally murdered 4 beautiful young University of Idaho students. Then, as he's leaving at a certain point, and I drove it myself in the middle of the night, way circuitous route to get back to his apartment in Pullman. He turns his cell phone back. He turns his cell phone back on to call mommy. Mommy.
She's a little much, but I do love Nancy. I don't think the abductor or whatever brought a cell phone.
That said, it's very clear that he did not want a cellular trail going to the scene. We also have that similar action. Allegedly, hasn't been proven yet. Barry Morphew has been accused in the murder of his wife. Prosecutors allege he did much the same in the critical hours surrounding Suzanne Morphew's disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the digital blackout. The bookends. When the cell phone was on and cut off, and when the cell phone was turned back on. Leading up to this, how can you guys, the feds, you've got all of this cell phone data at your fingertips, and it's a huge amount, probably millions of data points. Can you identify a car because you've got the possibility of a cell phone being on in the car. You've got the possibility the kidnapper had it on at the time. You've got the possibility of a smartwatch being connected to either cellular or Bluetooth. You have a lot of possibilities of catching the wave, catching the Wi-Fi. But how can you tell? How do you identify the vehicle coming to a certain juncture, cutting it all off, committing the kidnapping, and then coming back and cutting it all back on? How do you ISO that?
What you're trying to do is determine patterns of life of each one of these devices. What's normal and what's not normal. So we'll look at phones that are neighbors to Mr. Guthrie. They're normally at that house during the day or at night, depending on their lifestyle and their, if they have work and stuff. And then we have to look at, what's abnormal. This phone comes in a week before, and then again 2 days before, and then on the night of the crime comes to the general area, and then the phone turns off. That's a clue, right? We start looking at that device a little bit more, try to determine who it belongs to.
Oh, I didn't even think of that they could look at cell phone records from like before that night and see if they see anyone that was kind of stalking like Brian Kohberger driving around the house, remember?
Get the full records for that phone and see what else we can pull from those records and maybe identify the suspect.
Dr. Bethany, I've tried a lot of kidnapping cases, but not in the traditional sense of the word, such as this case. Kidnappings I have done are when a woman is kidnapped, taken away, okay, or a person taken to a different location for a different reason, and it's relatively short. Most people think of kidnapping as a ransom for money. Question to you. The thinking of a person like this, the mindset of a person who would kidnap an elderly woman for ransom.
Nancy,
what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Nancy, she's a commodity. She is somebody who's being taken for some commercial value. So kidnappers who kidnap geriatrics, that means older people, they're kind of like business people. It's kind of like somebody who opens a store and then they buy jewelry because they're going to mark up the jewelry and sell it to the public, okay, or to clients. She's a commodity to them. They're not attached to her like a grandma or a sister or a brother or something. She is an object to be exchanged for money. So these people, Nancy, they're ruthless. And sadly, her life likely means nothing to them. And if they think they're not going to get money or a reward, her value ceases.
Yeah.
Joining us, Brian Fitzgibbons, Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators around.
I always appreciate the guests these people have on their shows because they give good.
The world specifically to find missing people, including Mexico. You can find him at USPA Nationwide Security, and he is a former Marine and Iraqi war vet. I think that says it all. Fitzgibbons.
They just didn't care about Nancy.
I want to hear your thoughts on what is happening now and specifically about the reward.
Yeah, this is a major increase in the reward amount. And what this indicates, Nancy, is that this message is going out to individuals on the periphery associated with the perpetrators of this crime. So while we initially saw talks back and forth, videos about the ransom demand itself, this increase in reward is specifically targeted to associates of who potentially committed this crime to incentivize them to come forward and give up.
They
a name.
didn't.
How often do you see rewards work?
This is going to be a good answer. I mean, it's only been like, a few days. So I guess there's still time. But not if Nancy's not alive.
This is certainly a mixed bag. We've had some success increasing reward amounts to generate tips and leads. Generally what's going to happen is you're going to get a big influx of tips after a major increase to a reward is announced.
Which they
Now,
said they
that's something
have.
that the FBI is clearly capable of processing and filtering and triaging all those tips. So we've had every case is dependent on its own scenario, but we have had success in increasing rewards. Now, that being said, on the whole, this is not a great chance of success with an increased reward, but it is a tool in the toolkit.
You know, I hear what you're saying, Ms. Gibbons, but we hear about rewards being handed out quite often, not in kidnap for ransom, because that's very rare, but in other cases. Straight out to you, Cheryl McCollum, joining us, cold case founder of the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute, forensics expert, and star of a hit podcast, Zone 7, author of a brand new book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer, Solving the Cold Case of the Flint River Killer's Daughter. Cheryl McCollum, you have analyzed very carefully the ransoms and the reward. What do you think?
Nancy, it's a short list of the people in your life that would not turn you in for $1 million. This person knows it.
Yep.
People he went to high school with, neighbors, co-workers, people that sit next to him at church. They will turn you in for $1 million. And that phone has been ringing. And what we saw yesterday with the group surveying the grounds of that crime scene tells me this thing is red hot.
Dave Mack joining us from Crime Stories. Dave, what can you tell me about a neighbor unwittingly seeing the kidnapper?
Nancy, it's one of those shocking things that only means something after the fact. We have a neighbor of Nancy Guthrie who has lived in this area for over 30 years. 30 years in this neighborhood, and she sees a man, a stranger, never saw him before and hasn't seen him since. He was walking through the neighborhood, but Aldine Meister says he was walking without typical walking gear and said he had his hat pulled really far over his eyes. He was kind of younger, and he just didn't look like he was going out for a walk. He just didn't fit. Now, if you look through this neighborhood, Nancy,
that video is so creepy.
This is not a neighborhood that you would walk around. It's not a trick-or-treating neighborhood. There's a good distance between the homes.
Yeah.
It's fairly older and affluent. So you don't see a young man normally walking around in this neighborhood. She didn't mention it to anybody other than her husband at the time. And she says it was after January 8th. But within 2 weeks of Nancy Guthrie's abduction. She doesn't know the exact day yet. But she did tell police as soon as Nancy Guthrie's abduction became public knowledge about the man she saw walking. She gave a full description and has been interviewed. Investigators have yet to find any kind of surveillance video of this individual, but it might have something to do with the reason investigators have been talking about January 11th. And if anybody has security video, January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight.
American homeowners, the FBI.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. You're right, William. Good to see you. After a month, all of a sudden, a neighbor saw a suspect. I know. Well, not even. It's just a car. All of a sudden, now they gave up their footage. I feel bad. I feel bad for Nancy. Let me see what else I have for us. Maybe that might be the end. Let me see. Bullshit, you can't walk around or trick or treat there. I was doing it at 92. Let's watch just a few minutes of Vinny.
I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the case everyone is talking about, the tragic abduction of Nancy Guthrie A lot of attention, a lot of resources have been put into this case, this investigation, but still no arrests or any proof of life. Here's the story. Nancy Guthrie lived peacefully in the Catalina Foothills. At 84, she remained independent and close to her children. Saturday night, January 31st, she returned home after dinner. By Sunday morning, she was gone. Family members who checked on her found signs of a disturbance and contacted police. Deputies quickly classified the home as a crime scene. Blood confirmed to be Nancy's was found outside. Authorities revealed another troubling detail. Digital systems tied to her security and medical monitoring were disabled during the night. Investigators believe she was abducted. Surveillance later showed a masked individual outside her home. The FBI is now involved. Ransom letters appeared publicly, adding another layer of uncertainty. But despite the intense investigation and national focus, Nancy's whereabouts remain unknown. I don't think any of us, when this story first broke on that Sunday into Monday and the world realized what was happening here, I don't think anyone imagined that all these days later, 3.5 weeks later, we'd be sitting here still with no answers. No answers.
Yeah, I really didn't see that coming.
Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, great to see you. So we've seen some more.
Cody is a homie, if you guys didn't know.
More activity at Nancy Guthrie's house. What was going on here?
Yeah, Vinny, it seemed there was a flurry of official-looking activity going on at Nancy's house throughout today, and there's been reports online saying that this was the feds doing one last sweep, seeing if they left any stone unturned, seeing if there's any possibility that there was any form of evidence that was overlooked. Now, people arrived at the house dressed in suits. We're looking at some of them on the screen right now, presumably special agents with the FBI. They seem to be standing with someone who's a little more casually dressed. And I'll admit, when I first saw this video, I thought that might have been Cameron Guthrie, Nancy's son, but it's unclear if that is him. Now, News Nation's Brian Enton, excuse me, also posted this video on X as well, showing a similar vantage point, but a different angle of those same people outside the front door there. You see them standing, talking, obviously unclear as to what they were talking about. Enton also posted this video on X as well, another video showing a convoy of vehicles in the driveway. Now, we know there were reports of vehicles coming and going throughout the day, but again, unclear as to what exactly they were there for, but clearly there's a bunch of vehicles. You see all the caution cones and stuff outside of the house, media's pushed back and everything. Now, there was also an unmarked SUV that pulled into the garage. There you see it pulling out of the garage, but they pulled in earlier when they were arriving. They closed the door. Don't know who was in it. They're leaving there now in this.
Yeah, I think Savannah was in there.
Video, but don't know who was in it, why they went inside the house, whatever they're looking for. So, Vinny, we got a lot going on here, a lot of moving parts, a lot going on. And there's been a couple of updates with law enforcement as well. The FBI has said they'll be moving their command posts from Tucson back to Phoenix. That's where their headquarters is. And also, the Pima County Sheriff's Office has said they will start limiting their updates to instances when new information warrants release instead of the daily updates that we've been seeing. So, Vinny, all of this activity, all this to say, it could be pointing towards a standstill in this investigation. We'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't expect to hear from Pimas unless something really goes down.
Obviously, they don't tell us everything, but like you can kind of read the room a little bit. All right, Cody's going to stick around this whole hour.
Wow.
Let's get to that first question in our investigation. And it's about the investigation. Has the investigation slowed down? Do we get a feeling that things are cooling off a little bit right now? Joining me, forensic death investigator and host of the very popular podcast, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. Joseph Scott Morgan is
I love Joseph Scott Morgan.
with us, and the East Coast contributor for Los Angeles Magazine, Lauren Conlin, with us as well. All right, Lauren, I'll begin with you. Do you get the feeling that things are slowing down a little bit out in Tucson?
Vinny, I hear what you're saying, but there was just $1 million reward offered. I really don't think that things are going to be slowing down anytime soon. I think that it can feel that way because we are getting less updates from Pima County. But to me, the activity at the home today, I mean, it looked, again, like FBI agents who maybe hadn't been to the home before that are getting inundated with tips, and maybe they just have to familiarize themselves with that home. Additionally, Fox News also confirmed that federal prosecutors were actually at the Guthrie home as well.
Whoa.
And I don't want to be negative at all, and I want to be sensitive about this, but, and I know it's early, but it crossed my mind, could we possibly be moving into a no-body homicide? I mean, there's so much unknown, and again, I know it's early, but
no-body homicide.
That was a thought that I had.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, you've been on the other side of that crime scene tape, right? Give us an idea here. Like, do you get the feeling that things are slowing down, heating up, cooling off? Where do you think we are based upon what we're learning and what we're seeing and what we know?
Changing course, I think. No, I don't think it's slowing down. And we're 25 days downrange.
Okay, so like a lot of the professionals think it's not slowing down.
It's happened. And Vin, as you know, in a criminal investigation, an investigation like this is not a long time. But let me drop some breaking news on you right now.
Yes, please.
25 minutes. As of about 25 minutes ago, NBC is now reporting that the authorities will be turning the home back over to the family. And I was gobsmacked when I saw that. So that kind of correlates with what our colleague said just a moment ago. They're pulling up stakes and they're heading back to Phoenix. I mean, I don't know. I guess our work is done. And also to, kind of dovetail with what Lauren said, when I saw those folks walking around that scene, it smelled like prosecutor to me when I saw them in their.
I don't think they're gonna find much in the house. I don't know.
Suits and this sort of thing, and I know some people were dressed down. Those look
and especially if they give it back to the family, definitely
like prosecutors to me. And I don't know if they're from Pima County or if they're the feds, but they're trying to get a look and they're trying to paint this picture as if they're preparing for something, Ben.
Yeah, and a couple different directions. You could be preparing to present something to a grand jury. You can be preparing something to try to get a warrant in front of a judge, but generally you don't have to go there for that. It does seem much more serious. But the release of the home is really surprising to me. But Lauren, we have seen, for days and days and days, we've seen them comb over the acre plus of the land. We've seen them in the neighborhood. We know that they've been inside the house. So are you surprised that the home will be going back to the Guthrie family? And what do you expect that they'll do there, Lauren? Yes. Do you think that they'll actually spend time there?
I mean, I'm not surprised at this point, but I think that I've been sort of conditioned with this case not to be surprised. There's been so much activity at that home, basically from day one. I mean, what we're dealing with here, in my opinion, has not been normal. It was contaminated from day one. And up until today, we've seen pool cleaners, the mailman, reporters just going up and down the steps. It's been very crazy, in my opinion. And just to clarify with Joe Scott, these are federal prosecutors, and that has been confirmed. And going back to something that Cody said about the black SUV in the garage, I'm thinking to myself that they are still collecting evidence and they don't want us to see it. They are trying to hide anything they can, just because there are so many reporters and live streamers and just people outside of that home tracking their every move, that they do want to keep some kind of secrecy, in this investigation here.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, tell me this now. If you release the home to the family, right? So the crime scene's released, and then you catch someone and you end up learning more details about what happened. Like, let's say For instance, maybe there's 2 or 3 people involved and one person provides a lot of information to you, and wouldn't that like give you an opportunity to want to go back in there to maybe confirm some of this stuff or look for something that
it's like how when they messed up with the Idaho house, they shouldn't have destroyed that house or until it was all over, the investigation and everything.
you didn't think about looking for initially, and now that becomes much more problematic.
Yeah, it does, because now you've got the attorneys
Yeah, I think the house is contaminated for sure.
in the mix at this point in time. And it's one of the things that I always preach to my students. You know, you can set, and I'm just using crime scene tape as an example. If you set your perimeter up very, very broadly, you can always contract it. But here's the problem. You can't always expand it because that outer area has been contaminated. Vin, just like Lauren said just a second ago, brother, they took that tape down within what, 36 hours?
Yeah.
From Jump Street. All right. You've already got a problem there.
Yeah.
And I've been harping on this since it happened. I don't understand it. I'm not on the inside, obviously, but I don't understand why in the sweet Lord's name you would release the scene so early on and then have somebody else go back in and probably replicate some of your earlier work. It just didn't make sense to me. And now they're going to release the property completely. So I don't, in that sense, I don't know where it leaves us. I know that anything.
Yeah, it's very, very shady. And Joker, I agree with you too. We did say that the pool cleaners, why was it necessary to clean the pool? I know. Like that was a priority, I guess.
That happens afterwards or to this point. If they hook somebody up on charges, they need to verify something. I hope they've gotten everything done that they need to do, because now you run the risk. Any second-year law student can go in and say, well, they've contaminated this now. Yeah. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to, kind of pry that out.
It is shocking. All right, Joseph Scott Morgan's going to stick around. Lauren Conlon, always great to see you. LA Magazine, always breaking news here on the show. Thanks.
Yeah, we're not gonna finish Vinny's segment. Y'all can go watch if you want. I just wanted to play a little bit of it. My question is about her pacemaker. Are they monitored by doctor or hospital? What I mean is, can the doctor see when her heart rate? Well, yeah, they're monitored. I heard that, the battery is like forever. They last like 10 years. I guess if they die, that's when it would disconnect. But I also heard that doctors do have access to that information. So I'm wondering if that's just something that's kept on the low, or maybe they don't have access to that information. But I watched an interview with someone in the healthcare field. I think it was a pacemaker rep or something that said that they do, but I don't know. Maybe the pacemakers are all different. I don't know. The pacemaker battery should be on its last leg right now. No, they last 10 years. I mean, of course, we don't know when Nancy got hers in, but they last a really long time. So they're assuming that the pacemaker should be on, which is why they had the pacemaker devices like searching. Hey, F Trippin, good to see you, love. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. That's why Savannah changed and said she was with her parents, brother and daddy. An app can track that. They do it to monitor diabetes patients. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they know more than they're telling, right? I don't know. Day 26. Well, it's already about day 27 here. It's about to be midnight in 9 minutes. And Nancy is still missing. Again, I'll cover it tomorrow if there's new stuff. Skipped a few days. I think we last covered it on like day 24, 23. We'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. Shout out to all of you for hanging out for the last 3 hours. Appreciate you all. Please, please, please tap that like button on the way out. Replay the lives from earlier that you missed. I think it's someone with the basic knowledge of the house, like a landscaper. I think it's someone that is familiar with the house as well. 41 minutes in the house. It's a long time for an abductor to be in the house. Yeah, thank you, Evie. Evie, we're still gonna catch up on Corey Richardson's trial, so we'll do that. Appreciate you. Thank you, Joker. Appreciate all of you guys for hanging out. F. Chupin, DJ, William, Evie, Joker, Dallas, Abuelitas, everybody. Shout out to you guys for being here. Tap the like button on the way out. It's 2:52 a.m. here. Oh yeah, it's way late for you. It's only midnight here, so it's about to be midnight. But we have more true crime tomorrow, so I will definitely see you guys then. Thanks for hanging out. Like I said, please tap the like button on the way out. R.I.P. Nancy. Hopefully we get something legitimate soon. Later.